and welcome. What's going on with y'all? It's another Hope Night. It's gonna be another amazing class. So I'm gonna start off by saying this. I love all the classes we teach. We put a lot into them. A lot of research, time. But to me, there are certain classes that they just, by nature, they ring stronger than others. That's just the nature. And last week, when Nana taught the defensive thinking class, if that went over your head, I need you to go watch it again. That shit was so fire. And if you didn't catch the nuances, like there are certain, I think what's really dope about Nana is he has the ability sometimes to create language for unspoken things. Stuff that you like has been operating inside you, but you ain't got words for, especially in business. And the way he broke that down last week, man, that was so fire. I was taking notes in my chair like, damn, this is dope. And I was glad some of my team was here to hear it, because that's the language we need to hear in order to work through the dynamic of our office as well. So if you didn't catch that, that is so much fire. And we're going to continue that fire tonight. But if you didn't really get the crux of what was being spoken about last week, you gotta go watch it again. Just go watch it again. Like, and I thought I did good. I dropped like 30 and he dropped 50. Like, all right, well, we still won the game, so it's good. Nah, dead serious though. Defensive thinking, whew, that shit was so dope. But it's gonna continue. We're gonna keep heating up the same way we've been heating up. So let's get into it, because I want to cut the small talk, because it's going to be dense again today, because I want to go deep into the ascension of effectiveness and then continue through to the 15 commitments of conscious leadership, so we can continue to dive into that and learn how to expand before we switch up. So let's get going. Okay, since ascension of effectiveness, we talked about it briefly last week of the different stages. So I want to go through in more detail this week and break it down a little bit further. So it starts number 5 at motivation. Again, this is not for you to move up, skip up steps to be like, I was at 5, but now I'm at 4. Because when I taught this 2-3 years ago, that's what people were saying. Okay, so now I'm at data, and no, that's not the way the game goes. You need every single one of those steps, just like the foundation of a pyramid. Without one, you lose. You lose your foundation, and we're going to talk about why now. So, it's going to get a little dark. So there was a time when I was suicidal and I had a gun to my head. I was going to do it, right? I was going to do it. Really was going to do it. Life was bad. I lost everything. My first business crashed, family crashed, divorce, money gone, the gold chains is gone, all the fancy shit's gone, and I felt like the next logical step for me was that, right? In that moment, if somebody came to me and said, hey, Court, let's talk data. You think that would have worked? Or if they said, hey, Court, let's talk some strategy. See, the reason where you messed up was, you went left where you should have went right, and you went up when you should have went down. You think that would have helped? Not in that state, right? Even if they said, well, Court, you wasn't good enough. Just wasn't good enough. You got to get better. You got to increase your skill. In the moments where you below that line, you below number 3, data, strategy, and skill has zero effect. If number 4 and number 5 is empty, you got to make sure those are filled up. 4 and 5 together is where purpose is. 4 and 5 together is your strong foundation, emotional and mental foundation. If you don't have those two at the bottom and then they're solid, anything above that doesn't work. So that's why you can't jump steps. You can't hop around. You can't say, well, I'm just going to get to 1 and stay there. It doesn't work. It is a full, solid. See, you want to get to a place where you have the capacity to move in all 5 of those spaces at all times when you need to pull from it. So, but here's where it gets different. Let's go with motivation. Let's start with motivation. Motivation is an extremely powerful motivation is an extremely powerful platform for you. Now, a lot of times, some people fill up the whole pyramid with just motivation because you can make moves with motivation. You can make moves with motivation. And so that's where the mistakes are made, and some people thinking they can fill up the whole pyramid with just motivation alone. How so? Let's give an example. If I say, listen, all you guys, every single one of you guys in here, we're black or brown or someone of an ethnic background. Our ancestors are slaves, right? Our ancestors are slaves. They died for you to have the freedoms that you have. Right? Is that true? So they were whipped. They were whipped and beaten and raped and all those horrible things for us to sit in this room and for you guys to sit at home and listen to this class in your comfortable chairs. What are you going to do? What you going to do? Your parents may have struggled to get here. And for you to sit around and live half of your life or a quarter of your life or be lazy or go half-ass or complain that it's so hard that your internet's not working or no one's giving you the answers when the people before you who came before you had a struggle and had a horrible life for you to get where you want to go. And you like, entrepreneurship is so hard. Get your shit together. Because guess what? If you don't get your shit together, 10 years from now, you're going to be in the same spot with the same money, with the same problems, complaining about the same shit. Think about that for a second. 10 years from now, if you don't get your shit together and step up and go harder, stop being lazy and be uncomfortable and introduce some healthy stress, 10 years from now, you're going to look yourself in the mirror and you're going to be in the same place with the same problems, with the same money, with the same issues. How does that make you feel thinking about that? So let's cut this. Cut. Did y'all feel something? Did you feel something? Anybody want to share? What'd you feel?
I felt man, what am I doing? I need to do more. Like, stop taking advantage of life and live to the fullest.
Dope. Anybody else?
I felt like I don't want to, in 10 years, we're going to be 10 years older. So you're not going to have your youth anymore. Not as much of it anymore. You're not going to have a sharper mind than you have right now. So if you don't move on it now, in 10 years, it's kind of be like an even harder hurdle to jump over.
Yes. So, what that tactic was mid-level motivation. You go to any motivational speaker, motivational class, seminar, that's the tactic they use on you. And it works. I've used it. It works. But it's a mid-level motivational tactic. It's a pain pleasure tactic. Emphasis on the pain. And I don't demonize it because it doesn't work. I say I want to put it in its place, because at times we all need to make sure our motivation bucket is full. It's times you wake up and you don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to do it. You don't feel like doing it. You don't. That's life. People who work out every day or show up every day to their job or show up for their families every day or their friends, or they sleep 1 o'clock in the morning and somebody calls at 2 o'clock in the morning because they need to be picked up or fixed or helped or showed up for. We don't feel like doing that. We're motivated to do it because either I made a promise, I made a commitment, or I have a greater good that I'm looking for, or I think about the pain that I will go through if I don't do it. It's a tool. Think about the pain that will happen if you don't do it. Yes, I want to eat this cake. I love cake. But in those moments, think about, this is what's going to happen if I eat it. That's classic mid-level motivation. There's a higher level than that. You got to pay the extra $20K in the seminars to get that one. But there's a higher grade of motivation tools that gets used. It's cool to use that. But imagine if you had zero skill, zero strategy, and zero data. And you was pumped up with all that motivation. In sports, you need it. Coaches love players that will run through a wall for them. Why? Because that particular coach has a certain skill set that he can motivate his players well enough to where they'll do anything. Put me in, coach. Put me in. And they'll use tools like that, just like this, that mid-level motivation tool. Do you want to get your mom out the hood? You want to get your mom out the hood? Where's she at right now? She on 73rd, in the middle of all the shit right now. Shootouts, gun violence, all the shit. And you have an opportunity to get her out. Man, what are you going to do when you get out there? What? You mix my mom in this? You mix my mom in this. I'm going out there, I'm taking heads off. That's what I'm going to do. Mid-level motivation. Now, with zero of the top three, you're running there looking like a bull in a china shop. That's why it all has to be tempered. There has to be a lid put on top. Next one above that is inspiration. That's where your belief in your God lives, your religion lives, and all the things you're inspired by. And I would love to say people are more apt to take action when they're inspired than they're motivated, but statistics say it's not true. That's the sad part about most humans, is that You can get most humans to move through motivation than inspiration. Statistically, that's the way it shows. So that's why pain is a greater motivator than pleasure. Now, at a higher level of consciousness, you are able to take action on things that you see, things that you're inspired by, hope, inspiration, God. So your belief system. Now, if you combine those two together, you have purpose. And purpose can keep you on track. Purpose can prevent you from doing hella dumb shit. But purpose can drive you forward in all those tough times. The times where you want to quit, you don't want to do it anymore, you don't feel like it, you're sad. Your purpose can wake you up. So, inspiration. We are also inspired by stories of triumphs in others. So when you watch the story of somebody go from rags to riches, or be left behind and now they're king, or the story of Cinderella, all those stories are inspirational stories because you're somewhere in that story. And once that story links up with where you are, now you become the center of that story. You see yourself rising up with that person. That's inspiration. You see somebody looks like you, who looks just like you, who uses the same brush and hair combs that you use, it inspires you. How many people when in 2008, when President Obama sworn in, how many people teared up a little bit? Ain't got nothing to do. He ain't never seen you, will never see you. But I did too, because the idea of somebody who looked like me is inspirational. And there's nothing wrong with inspirational. Being inspired is good. But imagine inspiration alone with no skill, no strategy, and no data. God talked to me and he said that I need to do this. Well, are you sure? No, don't, no. Yeah, but have you looked at any data? Nope. This is my passion. I poured everything into this. Oh, shit. That means there ain't no talking to you, huh? Ain't no talking to you. Because your whole pyramid is full of inspiration. Oh, shit. Have you ever met somebody like that? Have you ever been around a person like that? The whole pyramid is full of inspiration. Well, it's actually not true. Oh, don't. I had somebody, not my past company. It's mandatory in our company that we read books. We're progressive. We always growing. And I don't want to be speaking languages in our offices that we can't all speak together. So this is maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I noticed every time we get into discussions around a certain book we reading, somebody just gets quiet. So in chapter 1, oh man, chapter 1 was dope. And then chapter 2, when they talked about this, and that, and then everybody's going at it, giving their inputs, and it was one person who was just like. So I'm like, yo, after I said, what's up? Like you ain't really into it? Or he's like, no disrespect, but I only have one book that I read, and that's the Bible. I get everything I need from the Bible. How I'm going to argue with this? It's tough to argue with. My only I was like, so, okay, I got a question. So can people of your religion go to therapy? He said, yeah. I said, okay. So where do you think therapists get their skill set from? These kind of books. These kind of books. We just get to read them without paying a therapist. But in those situations, people are full, and it's hard to speak. That's why there's limits. There's a cap at inspiration. Understand, it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary, but it also has its limitations. It's only one small portion of the equation, which is foundational for you, is foundational for you. But at the same time, you have to know where it's time, where it begins and where it ends. Any questions on those two foundational pieces? So 4 and 5 are your foundation. It's actually your brick and your mortar. It's your brick and your mortar. The reason why I call it the brick and your mortar is because anything that comes crashing down in life will only crash down as strong as your foundation. So you can take losses in life, you can have breakups, you can have all sorts of things happen in life, but if your brick and mortar is strong, you'll land on that. Life's going to be hard, you're going to be going through it, you're going to be stressed out, but you'll never get so low that you'll get into the depressed stages. Or if you do get into the depressed stages, you have tools to bring you up. You have game to bring you up and bring you out. You have self-talk to bring you up and bring you out. Get me? Understand that? So your brick and your mortar is motivation and inspiration. So you always have to play in those spaces. Of course, get inspired, get motivated. But there's always a voice in you that says, okay. I had a meeting after we met today, and this woman was so inspirational, right? So inspirational. She was so in her heart. It is like, she's a beautiful lady, but we're in a business scenario, and she was a beautiful person, is what I mean. But she's talking business through her heart. And so I got caught up for a second. We're crying together. She's telling me the history of this and that, and she can read that I can read you, and you're just, I could tell you're a good person. And I'm like, you can't, oh man, for real? So I'm like, you can, so we going back and forth in this whole, but I'm in a business meeting. So maybe 45 minutes in, my analytical voice came crawling. Hey, Court, I'm mid-tier. Hey, Court, we're at the end of the inspirational. It's about 2 more inspirational seconds back to business. And it was almost like the tear went reverse back up into my eye. And I was like, okay, so can you tell me the X, Y, and Z of this? And how many years have this? And she was like, okay. Because, I was a dope story. And you almost got me. Dope story. You almost got me. And this is dope. But boom, 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 and boom. And I know this is where you want to go, but this is where I'm going to be going. And this is my intention. And I need data and I need strategy. Period. Because if you get caught in people's inspirational, motivational stories, then you'll get lost with them. Back up, time out. That's why most of us don't go past here. You'll listen to a pastor or listen to a person or listen to a motivational speaker, and they sound so good. Sound so good. And you're so lost in how they sound that you forget to ask, hey, do you got any skill in this? What do you mean? Well, have you sold anything? What's your revenue? How many years in business have you been in? Most people don't go past this. They in a conversation, they'll stop at inspiration. Once you have to step over and say, okay, cool. Now let's talk about your qualifications to even be talking to me. That's skill. If you don't have these steps in business as an entrepreneur, then you'll get caught. You'll hire contractors that don't know what the fuck they're doing. Every small to large to medium step in your business, if you don't have this mastered, you'll end up getting bamboozled and wondering why everybody playing you. He came and he was dressed so sharp, inspiration. He complimented me, inspiration. He said, man, as a sister, I know being an entrepreneur is hard. You had to go through some struggles to get here. Validated you, motivation. And I'll just keep going in circles around. Keep playing in those circles. And we won't even get to whether I'm qualified or not. Mm-hmm. Man, I don't think y'all understand.
That's huge.
You walk into a club because, or you just want to meet somebody. You want to meet a partner. You want to meet a partner. Us men and women, we both do this shit. Man, she dressed down to the nines. She got the outfit is fire, body fire, cute, hair banging. You don't even ask nothing about her qualifications.
No. Not at all.
Nothing.
No.
And then you like, my baby mama crazy. My baby mama this, my baby mama that. Man, shut up. You didn't go beyond inspiration because you was inspired by her. Women do it too. Bruh spent all his rent money on his outfit for the club that night. All of it. Gucci belt, the chain, this, the watch, everything. So you thinking, man, he Gucci'd, Louis Vuitton'd up. He must got money. So you lean over his way. He tall, this, that. The Louis Vuitton stops right there. Mm-hmm. So, and then he takes you to his bicycle to take you back to his house. Because you didn't talk qualifications. You didn't go beyond inspiration. Skill is like, this can be it can be changed and used in so many contexts. Let's talk skill. Let's talk skill. We're going to switch up the lane. In the corporate world, this is at the bottom of skill is where you start to show your value, right? You start to show your value at the bottom of skill. You get trained. You start finding your way. Over time, you learn the nuances of the company, the politics, who are the key players, where you fit in to the pecking order. You start getting better at what you do. As you get better at what you do, you get your raises. Now you're asked to sit in on key meetings and give your opinions about stuff. Now your name is getting out there. That person's smart. Man, she's smart. You want to have her in on the meeting because every time she gives a good idea. And you keep getting better. More raises, more raises, more raises. Now, if you're in the corporate world, if you start hitting the top of that skill section, your value's high. Mm-hmm. Your value's high. They need you. You're a valuable asset to the company. Mm-hmm. What happens a lot of the times is your brain says, I think I can start my own company doing this. Mm-hmm. I could start my own company because you're getting all the accolades, the awards. You getting these $25 gift certificates to wherever company, Home Depot or whatever, because you're killing it at work. And you think that translates over into entrepreneurship. The other piece, what typically happens is, as we talked last week, there's a rude awakening that happens. But if you are an entrepreneur and your skill level is high, if you get to about a C in your skill level as an entrepreneur, maybe a little bit of money starts coming in. But once you start improving your skill, you get to a B, B minus, B. Guess what? More customers are coming now. You get to an A, now you're packed. That's what a line out the door is. Or we got a 30-minute wait, 40-minute wait, or it's sold out in 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Or you're booked out for 2 weeks if you're doing hair, or you're doing massages. Your calendar's full until August. It's you get packed. You think that's dope, right? Excellent. You peaked out at the skill level. What's the most valuable asset? Time, attention, or money? Time. So being that there's only 24 hours in a day, you peaked out at skill. You're an A, and you have no more time. Entrepreneurs with high skill get stuck right at this point because they don't know strategy, they don't know data, because they use a corporate skill set in an entrepreneurial environment. You can only stuff so many orders yourself. You can only bake so many cakes. You can only do so much. You still got to sleep, eat. If you got kids, homework with them, so you can only do so much. So a lot of people think that they can get away with skill, inspiration, motivation by itself. How come I ain't getting no funding? Or how come I'm about to lose my mind because I'm so busy and I have no extra time?
That's fire.
Once you understand that part about skill, that even skill has its limitations. You can only charge so much. You can only do so much because you're still only one person. So if I'm at the highest level and I'm a famous singer and now I have a residency in Las Vegas and I can charge $1 million for that residency, still only have limitations, and I'm the limitation. That's why it's so important for you to realize that skill is a small sliver. And some of y'all is like, how dare you say that? How dare you say that?
You on point.
I make the best cakes in Oakland. I make the best cakes in Oakland. I'm the dopest artist in whatever. I get the best massages in the Bay. Anything that's tied to you, know that if you're peaked out, you have a skill problem. The best thing to do is you got to realize that it's a small sliver, and no matter how inspired or motivated you get, it ain't gonna change. Okay, well, I'm gonna wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna wake up at 3. Go ahead, shit, try it. Try it.
This is solid.
Your ancestors and all the pain that you can drum up when it comes to motivation will still not help you get there. What you need is strategy. That's why strategy becomes a major piece of this puzzle for you as an entrepreneur. So there was a question last week or a couple weeks ago, and it was like, when do you when is it time to scale? That's one of the indicators. Once you raise up into that skill level and customers are coming in and you realize you maxed out. It was a sister that I talked to on one of our trauma retreats. She was so dope and unassuming, right? Quiet. She was like, "Hey, Court, can I talk to you for a second?" I'm like, "Yeah." I prejudged her off top because she was so quiet. And I said, she's like, "I got a problem with I'm having a problem with my catering business." And I'm like, "What's the problem?" She's like, it's just so busy. I have no extra time and I'm so stressed out. I'm like, "All right, so let's talk revenue. What's your revenue?" She was like, $1 million. I said, "How many employees you got?" She was like, 3. I said, "Girl, if you don't hire some people," she was like, "If you don't hire some people, here, let's make you an Indeed right now. Let's hire some people." Because we're taught as black folks, it's about work. If I don't do it, I got to do it myself. I got to get better. You can't think of yourself as an individual athlete in entrepreneurial world. You have to know that strategy's involved. Okay, if I remove myself, let's come up with a plan. Who can I get to help me? And the help doesn't have to be exactly like you are. That's the problem. Sometimes our minds will tell us, "I'm the only one in the world. I'm a one of one. I'm the only one that can do this thing." That's bullshit. There's somebody out there that can do, even if it's 70 or 80% of where you are, that will free you up 70% to go grow the rest of your business, or rest, or create more strategy, or grow, or expand, or do other things. And you can always backfill that 30% in doing something else. And that person also just might end up being better than you, and that's what you want. You want that person to be better than you. But you need strategy. So if you're not thinking strategy outside of those bottom 3, then you're stuck at that point. You can only make so much money. You can only make so much money. If the market is capped at a certain amount and you're there and your time is capped, that's it. That's checkmate. Mm-hmm. So how do you get out of that? Strategy. Let me step back. Let me think. And being strategic, knowing how to be a strategic thinker is one of the dopest things that you can do, because it can prevent you from getting stuck in anything. Have you ever known somebody where no matter what they got thrown at them, they find a way? I call it to weasel out. Man, they find a way to weasel out. They just can't, they won't die. One of my competitors was like that. Man, that brother was so dope. I don't necessarily agree with his philosophies on certain shit, but he was so dope in his ability to, whenever you like, okay, I ain't got to worry about him no more. He out the game. He reemerges in some other area and do it again and again and again and again. And that's what that is he's an amazing strategist. He has optionality. Strategies create options. So, the last one. Oh, question. I'm sorry.
All right, Yakupusu, I'll say yours first. The question is, strategy is a single word. What does it look like in practice? And then are there steps? Like, what does application look like? Like, what does that mean?
Dope question. So, have you ever went to any of those, it's a game, but you go to a particular house and it's a team that you play with. It's a role-playing game, but
Mystery House.
It's like a mystery house,
Yeah.
escape room. Have you guys ever done escape rooms? No, it's fun, and it's and what makes it fun is that it forces you to open your mind and create optionality in your thinking, and it also forces you to work together with each other because your thoughts, your ideas, your strategies may work for room number one, and it may completely not work at all for the next room, based on how you think. Good strategists are curious. Good strategists play by no rules. They say, where are all my laws? What things will get me arrested? Those are off limits. But now let's take all these rules and throw them out. And now what you're looking for is creating options based on what your intent is. So strategy is creating options based on your intent. So, and remember that's a important statement, is based on your intent.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? What's our intent here? Where are we going? What do I want to do here? Do we want to argue? Or do we want to win? Do we want to get to the promised land? What are we trying to do here? Now, based on my intent, what are all my options? And as you get better at strategy, you create more options. Now, once you create the options, the next step in creating the optionality is coming up with what is the BKM, like what is the best known method in the strategies that you have. So I want to go here. Here are my options. Second order thinking. First principle in second order thinking says, not only do I think about what my options are, but when I think about them, what are the effects of what could happen if I pick this one? Mm-hmm. So if I choose X, what could happen? Well, this can happen, this can happen, this can happen. Okay, and if I mitigate that, then what are the potential butterfly effects of, right, we're going to choose this one, which means, all right, I'm tapped out at work. I can't work anymore. Well, I got to hire some folks. Well, hiring somebody, okay, but I have to train them, so it's going to slow me down a little bit. But over time, 2-3 months from now, I'll start to see progress. So it won't be instant. Why? Because what will happen when they get here? When they get here, they're just going to be standing there looking at me stupid, right? Now I got to train them. Well, how much time can I peel off from working to train them? So that means I'm going to have to, instead of saying we're booked for 2 months, I'm going to say we're booked for 3 months to give me space to train this new person. So that if we end up getting all those orders fulfilled earlier, based on me finishing training, it's going to make the customers feel like we showed up for them better. But in actuality, I already planned for it. Like, that's what strategy encompasses. Now, you know the interesting part about it? Some of the highest level places that you can go, they don't have good strategy. They don't. The smartest minds, some of the smartest minds cannot have good strategy. Some of the best thinkers, see, strategy doesn't automatically come. It's a practice. It's an exercise. It's a muscle you have to build. It was, what was it? In England. No, in India. In India, there was, they had, I forget, it was a particular animal problem that they had.
Snakes?
I forget what animal it was.
Snakes?
Maybe it was a cobra, but it was an animal problem that they had in India. It was bad. So what they told the people was, for every animal you catch, we'll give you some money. You know what the people start doing? Breeding those animals. Because it's like, oh, good idea, good strategy. Easy, quick fix. But they didn't They didn't think of the second order effects of that. Human nature, what can happen. So strategy comes in those two forms. Any other question? Go ahead.
I think also too, I think whoever asked the question is using a skill frame to understand strategy, right? And strategy is really a cross-section of multiple disciplines and a way of thinking. So I think what Quarter's trying to do is bridge between a skill approach, which is, like if I do this, I can achieve that. Where strategy, all those variables change. And so there's so many principles and models, mental models you have to learn based upon the challenge that's in front of you. And strategy is not, let's say we're both doctors or we're both mechanics, right? There's so many random things that will happen in our experience that there is not a list of strategies that will save us if we just copy and paste it. Because based upon where we are, who's our customer, what's our experiences, there's other strategies that we have to be able to execute. So when he says it's a muscle, you really have to be in constant, curious discovery of just ways of thinking and seeing things and patterns and solutions and base model of how things work. And it's a combination of multiple disciplines. But when you finally get there, I think what this is so dope. I love this. The ascension of effectiveness is, I think it's just your best you've ever taught it to, because he's giving it much more circular, he's looping the points. And I think he's making it so much more relevant to the last 6 years of classes. But when you get close to the maximum skill, you can almost see it then. It's almost starts to materialize. And then when somebody brings strategy to you, it's almost like it's a natural next step. But if you're in inspiration, motivation, and you talk about strategy with you, it sounds like I'm being too deep or too analytical.
Which is kind of a question that I wanted to bring forward, because something you said earlier was around the skill point, which was people trying to kind of take their corporate skill and apply it to entrepreneurship. And I think the examples you gave of that were really helpful. Can you define, when you say corporate, what are the behaviors or ways of thinking that you're pointing at that don't translate?
Good question. When I say the number one thing is lack of context around the rest of what needs to happen. So it's lack of context. So in the book, The E-Myth, they call it the technician. So everyone in the corporate world are a technician of some sort, which means they have a particular position, particular job. And so the idea is to get good at our job, right? That's the goal. Whatever my job is, I want to master it. Mm-hmm. So if I'm a marketing director, or even if I'm a marketing manager in a corporate environment, if I spend any of my time over in the product development section because I want to learn it, guess what's going to happen? Get my hand slapped. You don't belong over here. Mm-hmm. And you're taking away the time that you could be mastering marketing. Mm-hmm. So you'll invest all you have to get good. You got to invest and pretty much block out everything. Now, that tunnel vision is good in your position. Mm-hmm. But when you're entrepreneur, that tunnel vision hurts. Mm-hmm. Because now you have to realize that whatever you're good at, it's like 1/20th of what you need. And that's a hard pill to swallow. So we'll dive out there to say, man, I made I hear this a lot. I made the white man so much money, so many millions, and now it's my time to get myself. Yeah. Chill with that. You know why? Because you have no context about what all the other departments that happened to get you to where you have just this one role. It took a lot of years, a lot of strategy, a lot of a lot of building, and building requires a knowledge of everything, even if it's a C-level knowledge of everything, to at least get the plates spinning.
That's more talk. Microphone.
I'm not caping for corporatitude, but I will say that increasingly so, the people who are most successful in corporate environments are people who can think across functions and build cross-functional relationships. So you're actually rewarded for not staying in the box, for looking to adjacent teams, adjacent projects, things coming down the road, and making correlations between the job you have and what's going on in other areas of the business.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree with it. But still, even if you can go cross departments, it's still a whole company that you have to run. You're still a tiny percentage of what it takes to run everything. Payroll, corporate taxes, corporate insurance. Who's going to pay the insurance? How to get there? The building permits. What building permits? What zoning are you in that building? In that, how are you zoned? How is that building zoned? Like when you run payroll, how do you make? Is your insurance paid for? What is the insurance do you have on the company? What about the parking lot? Is the parking lot up to code? Is your bathroom up to code? If you got 4 bathrooms in there, are all 4 up to code? Because if they're not, you can get sued. Like I can go on all night, right? Because it's if you run, there's so much you have to do, besides just this, and this. It's so much. What about your all of your customer interfacing? Is the font on the email blast that gets sent to customers the correct font? How much research have you done on that font? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? And is it priming, framing, and anchoring correctly? What is the conversion rate on all your products being sold, the percentage? Because if your conversion rate is off by 1 or 2 or 3%, then your company runway, you might run out of money by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about the bank transactions? What about your credit card company that you use? Gotcha. What's the percentage on the credit card company? Is it 2.4, 2.6? Those 0.2 points is a salary for somebody if your company's big enough. And if you're not paying attention to that, then you just fucked off a salary for somebody. Like it's, and once you step outside of that and say, all right, cool, I can't be on an island. I need help. Even like most of us came from corporate, right? We were born and was like, I ain't never ever had a job. That ain't true. We came from corporate. Mm-hmm. It was the reality check that we had to face when we like, yo, this don't feel right. I was getting my Home Depot, I was getting my raises every year, and we like to, for this year, we want to bring up Courtney Smith for doing such a great job. Come on up, Courtney. I'm like, shit, I can get out there and entrepreneur my ass off. Once I did, I realized all those blind spots that I thought it hit me in the face, and I had to sober up real quick, or it's a wrap for me. Mm-hmm. And that's where we talked about 2 weeks ago, that adrenaline and testosterone will change your whole makeup once you get out there in the wild. And so I was, you know what I'm saying, a pink pig, so to speak. And I walked out in the wild and I seen all these monsters and goons and goblins, and it was cold and I don't got nothing to protect me. And I'm like, what the hell? So as I'm fighting for my life and nervous, all of a sudden the hair starts to grow and the tusks start to come out. And I'm like, okay, now I can hang. But you don't know until it happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Also, I think when you most employees inside of a corporation is inward facing. So you guys are focusing on efficiency right? And so when you become entrepreneur, all of a sudden you're forced to be external facing. Well, one of the biggest gaps is like when you're interfacing, your failure rate is way lower. So you would think, well, I hardly ever fail, because it's almost like the game is already designed for, as long as you hit this marker every time that's already pre-designed for you, you're part of this winning experience, right? Two, the audience is maybe your supervisor or maybe a couple of peers, not the public, right? So when you all of a sudden have to develop a relationship with the public and realize that audience is thousands times more complex than this very narrow audience that I'm dealing with every day. Even if you are cross-communicating, you're still cross-communicating within a mindset. So, but when you have to step outside that mindset and argue your value, like Google has developed a brand and a value statement to the world, or offer value offer to the world. So all the employees within that are benefiting from that value offer. But when you become an entrepreneur, you have no value offer to the world. You got to generate that from nothing. So your skills doesn't necessarily translate because people already have patterns. So even if you bring something new to the market, I already have a pattern what I'm going to do between 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. So you might say, I got this new thing. I don't really have time for you. I don't really know who you are. So you got to even disrupt my rhythms, my comfort zones, my patterns, and then establish a brand that causes me to continuously pull money out of my pocket and provide value to you. That transition is a nosebleed for somebody who's had a linear relationship. From college was linear, corporate America is linear, but entrepreneurship is nowhere near linear.
Yeah, beautiful. Good question. Good question. All right, last one. Data. So this is a tough one for a lot of us creatives. A lot of us, if we're too full of inspiration, it's hard to be a data, to think in terms of data. If you listen to your gut so much because the pyramid is full of inspiration and motivation, so all you listen to is your gut feelings, and I just got this feeling, I'm good enough, and I know strategy, but I'm gonna go with my gut all the time. Then it's hard. It's going to be tough for you to look at data. Data is where the billions are made. Data is where the billions are made. Data is right now how you are being monitored on social media to build up ways to market and sell products to you all the time. They're looking at data. I don't care what's in. I just want to know what's in. So I'm going to track 1 million people. So that's why when I hear trending songs, I'm going to use a trending song. I don't even like rap music, but I'm going to put it in my background. Have you ever seen that? Have you seen somebody who you can tell do not even listen to rap, but they saw the trending song, and now you look on their likes and it's a ton of them, because data is important. Data supersedes a lot. If you know how to mine data, not blindly take data. That is learning how to mine data and even look at data and use data is just a tough of a skill as skill itself. Remember that. So it's not like, okay, give me the data then. No. Where does data come from? Who are the people who are the people that was involved in that? How did they mine it? I got questions before I take this. Because once you learn the skill of how to mine data, then you can skip steps in your business. A and B testing in your marketing is data. So learning how to look at the data. Well, when you can tell people are suck at data when they just generalize. Well, hella people like my shit. Okay, well, how much is hella? Hella. You from the town, you know hella, you know the number. Come on now, give me a real definitive, I want to know. Well, everybody like my stuff. A lot of people. We got to get better at data. How much percent? How many? Once you learn how to play with data, then it allows you to take your business from a small sample size to a large sample size. I'm noticing when I look at the data, 42% of the customers that buy from me are Latina women. That's interesting. Is that true? Are we sure? Let me test something out real quick. Time out. Throw out a little test. Phew. They eat it up. It's gone. It's sold out. I got something. Let me try it again. And so now it allows you to see things that you never would have, you wouldn't have saw using your feelings or your hunches or your skill. That is how you that's how you scale your business. 3 digits. You can scale your business 2 and 3 digits just by getting good at the data game. Now, data being that dope, data being that amazing, meaning it's where the billions and millions are made, it being that good. What if what if I just fill my whole pyramid with data? You'll be just as blind. Because now you can't see the market. Your data skewed. You have no foundation. You can't see any trends where things are going. You're looking at data. You can't see the trends. You have no strategy. Your strategy is just to look at data and make moves off the data. That's not smart either. Any one of these by themselves can kill you, kill your business. Mm-hmm. So just know that. Any questions?
Can you, this is the day, can you talk about, can you just spend a little time on data in terms of not what you mean by it, but is it only quantitative, like how many, how much, or are there other, when you are looking at data, what do you look at? Are you looking at just sales dollars and units, or are you looking at something, like what are you looking at?
Good question. So quantitative is the dominant factor when it comes to data. Quantitative. I also look at patterns. So I look at quantitative, how many, how much, but I also look at patterns, seasonalities, what happens in this season. So if you're good at observing patterns, you're collecting data. Mm-hmm. So to some people, it looks like a wave, right? The people who feels like a wave, they're the why does this keep happening to me people. If you're good at looking at data, if you're good in that stage, you're going to say, it's going to happen right about now. Because you're always checking the data, looking at numbers, looking at patterns in the numbers, looking at what groups of people are saying. You're even checking it's volume, distance, time, numbers.
Okay. Strategy is 1-to-1. 1 to short, small circles. I can see maybe the portion of my city. Strategy won't work county-wise, statewide. You can't see it. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're thinking is outside your, because of the diversity of human behavior, right? Mm-hmm. So if everybody's saying hella in the Bay Area, you put a campaign saying hella, it may not get outside the Bay Area and have effectiveness. May not make it down to LA, right? So if he decides he wants to expand to LA, he better understand the relation to data. Now, Charlie Munger really pushed mental models. Mental model is, I go to an engine and I'm listening to the engine and I have a model of how the engine is supposed to sound. If the engine sounds different, my mental model tells me, oh, I know what the problem is based upon the way the engine is supposed to sound. Mental model and data are married hip by hip because your feelings and your emotions are usually tied by your local biases, right? But what happens with data is when you experience data and you have mental models, which that's what he's talking about, the patterns, you'll say, hey, based upon these patterns of how human beings move, how we respond, how we react, how we think, how if this happened, this usually happens, if this happened, or this can happen today, in 6 months to 5 years from now, this is going to happen to offset that, to create a balancing feedback, right? Feedback balancing loop. So what happens is that data, when you get to data, you're not just looking at data for like 1-2 punches. You're also looking at data for like long-term planning or market positioning. But in order to understand that, you can't see it all. Other thing that we do to master data is when we watch the news, we don't watch the news for facts. We don't watch the news for gossip. We watch the news for patterns, so we can start to see observation of, oh, these different patterns are starting to occur, which is also a form of data that allows us to say, hey, I think we're about to move into this new trend. So data is really like more or less the ability to see. It's the macro way of seeing the many, where strategy is really like hand to hand. It's like strategy is like a martial art move, right? Where data is like the military. It's a whole different scale of how to process, because that Bruce Lee copied and pasted 1,000 times don't go well against tanks. So you got like it's a different conversation and it's a different level of scaling. And so as you decide, hey, I want to take my business, and Barry has 7.5 million people. Nobody can see that many people in this room. Nobody. So you need data to be able to see 7.5 million to expand your business, to grow and mine other opportunities. Otherwise, you're only going to be able to exploit your close circle.
Yeah, good answer. And so this is not going to be the end of this. We're going to take pieces of this, slivers of this, every week for a little bit. So this is more expanded discussion, but I'm gonna bring back examples of what it looks like on data and strategy. So we're gonna talk examples, real life examples.
Get one more slide. I get his restroom.
Huh?
Get one more slide. I get his restroom.
Yep. Okay. So let's let's keep going. We got a couple more to go. Let's keep going. Next slide. So we discussed that. Let's keep going. Next slide. So now let's talk 15 commitments of conscious leadership. Next slide. Okay, so there's 4 types of leaders. 4 types of leaders. Number 1 is to-me leadership. I'm sorry, Shabisha. I'm doing your job for you.
Number 1 is to me leadership. Second one is by me leadership. Third is through me leadership. And fourth is as me leadership.
Okay. So, of course, every book has their style. Every leadership book has their monikers of what their style of leadership is. This particular book talks leadership in these 4 languages: to me, by me, through me, and as me. So let's start with the first one. Next slide.
Life happens to me. So to me leadership, the posture is as a victim.
So a to me leader is always talking about shit that happened to them. Life happens to me. This happened to me. Why is this always happening to me? If you are in a leadership position and you move like this, your subordinates can't stand you. Why can't they stand you? Because you're always blaming other people. You're blaming everybody else for why shit ain't going right. A to-me leader is, oh, this is happening to me. You're a victim. Your posture is a victim. So you're always playing the victim role. And how you got to be a manager, who knows? But the people under you can't stand you because they know that if something goes wrong, they're going to be pointing at you. Oh, these people that I got. But guess what? In relationships, it's the same. Man, the person I got ain't about shit. Well, you picked that person. Because to me leaders, life always happens to them. Let's keep going. What's the experience?
The experience is blaming and complaining.
Blaming and complaining. So you want a key component or a key indicator of whether or not they are a to me leader. That's what you get. That's what you hear. Blaming and complaining. Always and never are two words in the toolbox for to me leaders. Man, this person never shows up on. They always doing this. Let's keep going.
Beliefs, they believe that there is a problem, someone is at fault, someone should fix this.
You know anybody like that? What's the key question?
Why me? Whose fault is this?
Whose fault is this? Get it. Who did this? And why me? Some will insert the God in the middle of the why and me. Why God? Why God? Why me, God? Because victims will victim. And victims create victims. What are the benefits?
Experience, separateness, defined identity, entertaining drama, supports empathy, adrenaline high.
I get to separate from you. I don't have to deal, like, if I don't have to take responsibility for anything that happens that goes wrong. I get to be over here. That's y'all. I didn't do that. Mm-hmm. Did you grow up in a household where if you snitched, you got a whooping?
Yes. I did.
Stitches get stitches.
Yes.
Got a whooping for snitching.
Yes.
That wasn't me. They did that. Come here.
Yes.
You know why? What they were trying to teach you is to stop playing victim and to take responsibility in their own little way, but they were trying to teach it. You see what I'm saying? You want to be victim always want to be entertaining drama because victims feel good when there's other shit going on, drama going on. Girl, I watched that. I seen that. You see that? Because it makes you feel good. Plus, you get the adrenaline high of always being in the middle of some shit. You're always in the middle of some shit. Next slide.
I make life happen by me leadership.
By me is I make life happen. So I make life happen. How much funner is it to live when you go from being a victim to making life happen? Wow, that's dope. What's the posture?
Creator.
Okay, I'm about to get woo-woo for a little bit. Who else is a creator? God. So when we always talk about being God-like or Christ-like or being like Jesus, you can't be Christ-like as a victim. You can't be God-like as a victim. You can only be God-like if you're imitating what God does, and that's create. So you're a creator. By me is a creative way to lead, and you take responsibility. What's the experience?
Appreciation.
Man, now you go from playing the victim to appreciating. What are the beliefs?
Problems are here for me to learn from. I create the problem so I can solve it.
Come on. Wouldn't you want that as your friend? That person around you as a friend? Look, problems are here for, like, I can learn from every problem. I create them so I can solve them. What's the key question?
What can I learn? What do I want to create?
Come on. So what can I learn from this situation? Even if it's fucked up, even if something happened, even if it didn't come out exactly how you planned or wanted to, or the intended creation, the question that you can ask that continues the creation cycle and the by me cycle is, what can I learn from it? So that's the only question that you want to ask in those situations. What are the benefits?
Personal empowerment. Define your wants and desires.
Personal empowerment. So now you're powerful. You're a powerful creator. You move as a leader saying, I can create the world around me. And now I'm empowered. Why? Because I can make the decision to create whenever I want. As an entrepreneur, you're not like a job, like my brain don't even register anymore that kind of philosophy. Why? Because I can create something. I can build something. Next slide.
Through me leadership is I cooperate with life happening.
Through me leadership. This is a higher level of thought. This is, again, it's not to race to get to these. Some of these will take a lifetime. The last one will take probably your whole life to get to. Or maybe you be on your deathbed right before you croak and be like, oh, I got it. See y'all later. So this isn't a race. But through me leadership, what's the posture?
Co-creator.
Now you engage with everyone as a co-creator of an experience. You're not competing with them. You're not acting like you're better than them. You're not trying to dominate them. You're in a space with them to co-create. What's the experience?
Allowing, flow, wonder, and awe.
That's fire.
You're allowing. So there's no defensiveness. It ain't no fighting. I ain't arguing with nobody. If that's your thought, dope. But we're gonna get to the right answer. We're gonna get to the working answer by the end of this. What are the beliefs?
I am the source of all meaning. I experience things as perfect, whole, and complete. Life handles all apparent problems.
So now everything happens through you as a vessel. And as it flows through your vessel, it gets to a better place. There's no complaining. There's no arguing about anything. I'm not there yet. I'm not even there yet. It's a work in progress continuously. What are key questions?
What wants to happen through me?
What wants to happen through me? Now, what are the benefits?
Non-attachment, unlimited possibility, plenty of everything.
Yo, here's why. The price you pay in the key questions, the price you pay is vulnerability in this stage. This stage, you have to be more vulnerable. The one before that, the by me, I'm in control. Wait, what's that? Oh, hold on, back up. I create what I want to, my experience. Move over, stand right there. Like you're more in control. This one, you sacrifice that. You're more vulnerable. You're more open. Now more great can come through. Unlimited possibilities can come through. But the price you pay is more vulnerability. Let me get to the last one and then I got you because I want to finish this last one. Dope, right? Last one.
Life is me, is as me leadership.
As me leadership. As me leadership is the last one. And what's the posture?
At one with all.
So I'm connected to everyone. What's the experience?
Peace and spaciousness.
I ain't there yet. I will get there. Maybe when I'm 100. But I'm working towards it. What are the beliefs?
There is just oneness. There are no problems and no one to solve them.
Key questions.
No more questions, just knowingness.
And the benefits.
Experience oneness and non-dualism, unlimited freedom and peace.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, not the last slide and the, I think it was through me and at, or can you go back to the last two? Because I
Go
forgot
back.
them real quick.
Last slide.
Yeah, so through me and by me. You said you had to have vulnerability. My brain is ranking it as less defensiveness between the two transitions. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So no defensiveness.
Thank
The next one requires no defensiveness. So that's scary. That's a scary feeling. But the win in that, the prize in that is that your possibilities become way more endless. Because when you're in control, you also cut off opportunity. All right. So we're gonna stop at as me, and then we're gonna keep going through the 15 commitments and continue. So all right.
It's really dark. It's really dark in here. It affects the experience of the class. You feel that?
Hey, I'm gonna do a little
Meaning, like the people.
advertisement. Put on a
What's
donation
the
slide.
sure.
Or just let it flash here and there. Josh, if you want to reboot real quick for a second
Yeah,
while we
it
go to the
brings,
next slide, you want to just
it
reboot
brings
for a
them
second?
way down.
Just real quick, I just want to do a little advertisement. These are Ray-Ban smart glasses. Yo, these are dope. Let me just say this. If you're studying and you're doing a lot of research and you're constantly like going between meetings and you need to pull up data or insights, these glasses have AI built into them. So if I say, hey, I don't want to say it because they come on, they will actually answer questions, AI questions for me. If I'm out and about, I can say, hey, where am I at? It can tell me where I'm located. It can tell me about the building I'm looking at or whatever I'm looking at is in front of me. I can tell it to take a picture of you guys right now, and it'll take a picture of you guys. Tell it to take a video, it'll do a video of you guys. But the coolest part also I love is like when I'm reading at nighttime, I just tap this and it plays music in my, because it has speakers by my ears. And the music is so low, like that reading, you know, when you listen to music, when you're reading, it needs to be a certain level. It's that perfect level. And like if I play music right now, so I'm playing music right now, you can't hear it. All right, and let me stop it. So just want to say, I think this is the next level of AI. It's crazy where we're going. I know the goggles are cool spatial experiences, but to have an assistant with you with no earbuds in my ears and no extra gear on my face and just be able to ask questions and provide me insights and information, or I can take phone calls. So if you call me, I can listen to, I talk to you on my glasses, which is, that's the only thing that's weird in public because nobody sees something in your ear. They're looking at like, that dude over here really talking to himself. But the next, just if you guys wear glasses and you guys decide you want to move to that next level, I know I'm not doing, look into smart glasses. It's a dope experience. It really is. I love a lot of my I got a lot of fashion glasses, and I love all my glasses, but I find myself wearing these the most because they're like a walking assistant. So I'm really excited about this. My voice is going out because I'm fighting it. So make sure my voice, the volume is right, because I might need to have Court Smith adjustment on my volume, because you know I speak super loud. Before we get into the next class, how many of you guys did the exercise around defensiveness online as well? I want to hear how many of you guys had a chance to kind of do a defensive observation last week. Anybody? Anyone? No one had any? Is anybody prepared to share? I want you guys to share. I want to jump into it, and I want to kind of like dive into it and see how you're processing it, because this defensive thing, once you see it, it's a superpower. You'll even know when it's time to bail. There's a time you should bail on conversations. But if you don't know defensiveness, when you see it, I'm going to get into different layers of it and different fancy footwork around defensiveness. So who wants to share? Anybody? And also other people online, they want to share some experiences about defensive experiences. Let me hear about them. Let's go for it.
I'll share.
Okay. I share. I don't know. I just sounded like you said it.
I had so many moments because from the last 2 weeks in just personal conversations, I've been working on increasing my awareness and gamifying it. But an even interesting more one happened this morning. So we have been having a lot of crime and vandalism and loitering and homeless people and stuff at my business. And so my brain instantly goes into defensive spaces. Stuff was stolen. They tagged up our building, had to paint over it, trash in the parking lot, loitering, homeless people sleeping on the bench, but repetitive things. So my first brain goes, I'm responsible for this. Like, I need to take action to reduce, cause friction, whatnot. And I definitely went overboard. And so I purchased, and it was more about the positioning of overboard. I purchased cones because I have a very big parking lot that I share half of the lot with the other businesses. And I'd purchased cones and wires to wire off my portion. And so my clients came in and all the cones were left up. But there was a space for clients to get in and get out about 2 cars with. And my clients were like, oh, are those going to stay there? And I was like, absolutely. And they're like, oh, well, I don't like them. Can you move them? And I was like, no, they're a part of the process. And again, I'm being so vulnerable because I know this is all horrible decision making and defensiveness, but we can learn from my mistakes. So the client said, and for framing, I have a lot of older clients, which for driving, I guess that having less maneuvering space was a big stress factor for them. And in the moment of my response, all I was thinking about were all of the negative things that had been happening to me repetitively. So I was in a space of, I'm tired of people screwing me over. These cones are staying to protect myself. If you can't take an extra 30 seconds to park on the street. Like, that was how I was feeling. I didn't say that, but that's how I was feeling. And so my client had said, well, why don't you just park in the back spaces? And I was like, oh, okay, this isn't my building. I'm going to go park over there. And so I was like, you're welcome to park in the handicap space, but the cones are going to stay because I have to have a space. After I calmed down about 15 minutes into our session as I'm processing, which, yes, it took that long, I was like, hey, Deb, I realized I came off really defensive, and I apologize. And this is a little backstory as to what's been happening. Is there a better way that you'd like me to, that we can approach this while considering protecting the space and protecting your experience? And so we ended up talking about it and came up with the handicap solution. But it was just a very interesting space because even though I had been working on my defensiveness, it's so ingrained in so many of the things that I do, particularly in my business, because I do often feel like I have to protect what I built and no one else is going to do it. And so it's really a lot of practice to even acknowledge when I know I'm in the wrong and still backtrack and swallow my pride and be able to have those conversations. And so it's just been very interesting to just sit in that space and be like, ooh, I know that was wrong, or ooh, I know that was defensive, or how else can I approach it? Am I willing to take the pie in the face to figure out how to do it right, to, become a better leader? So that was my experience.
Anybody else had defensive experience? Go ahead to Jordan. Jordan, you got your own microphone now. That's what we
trying to be
doing,
like
huh?
Shakina.
I see you, Jordan.
Now, my experience was revolving around problem and solution, and how you could stay around the problem and circle the problem so much, thinking defensively, and how it could delay the solution within a team dynamic. And in my experience, it's you may not understand or know that you're thinking defensively until the solution is far away. So it was pretty interesting for me.
Anybody else? Kaja. Somebody get a Kaja microphone. We probably need to buy another microphone for Kaja, because you know. Go ahead.
Somebody gave me, sorry. Someone gave me, like they offered something that I can add to my podcast. And they offered their service to add it. And I said, well, you know, it sounds good. I'm not opposed to that. I would be fine with it, but it would mean you have to record that and you have to have it to me within a certain time frame, because I do my own recording, but I don't do my own editing. So I have to send it to be edited. So if I'm going to include it, I need your piece to go with my piece to give to the person who will do the edits. So that means that I'm going to need you, although I understand you have your own time constraints in your own life, I'm going to need it within a certain time frame so that I can meet my production schedule for my episodes to come out as they're scheduled. And they pushed back a bit about, it's hard to say it's going to be every blank, every Tuesday or every, you know, whatever the case may be. And I defended my work style. Because my feeling was, it doesn't have to be a fixed point. Like we can say, you know, within 2 days, within 10 days. But we do need to make a service level agreement. And once we make that agreement, we need to meet it. The difference in work style was they were a little more comfortable working down to the 11th hour. I don't like working to the 11th hour. If you plan properly, you really shouldn't have to, given, you know, uncontrollable factors. So I was defending my work style in relation to my output to say, hey, I'm willing to take what you have, but if you're bringing it into this working thing, this is how this thing is working, so then this is how you're going to need to do it.
And how did defensive show for you in that situation?
I was defending my work style. And I really was not willing to back away from structure as far as schedule, as far as delivering output.
Everybody understand how that worked? She gave a really nice complex one, which is she divorced optionality in the name of defense. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, what she's saying is she could have found more options. She was being flexible, but she wasn't maximizing her optionality to still achieve the overall goal, as well as sometimes businesses experience random things that may take you in new directions that offer you even greater opportunities. But if you're defensive, you miss those off-ramps. You know, so her story was kind of really dope because it showed how that was really more of a strategical example of how defensiveness compromised. It's not necessary that she needs to have a loss, but for her to be aware that that's a problem. She's designing her business so as she make it just a regular patterns, she designs her business to just automatically capture opportunities as opposed to really needing manpower to find opportunities. So that was dope. Anybody else? Go ahead. She said, all right.
She looking like, forget it.
She's like, God, since we doing this, there's no altars here. There's no altars here.
Since we're doing this, let's do it. I found out this week that I am extremely defensive. I was like, oh, dang, I'm defensive. Oh, wait, oh, wait. And then I started to reflect, like, why am I so defensive? And I called my sister. I'm like, Mika, I'm so defensive. And she was like, me too. And I'm like, it started from, I know where it started, but it's like, now I'm getting the steps to not do it as much. Everything is not, I would say, evolved around me. So just because a person sit us all down, it happened at work. Like my manager sat us all down. And first my coworker comes to my desk and she says, our boss wants us. And I looked up and I said, I don't have a boss. And she was like, oh, well, excuse me. I was so defensive. And I told her, I said, right away, I was like, I apologize. And it was just like when we sat in the meeting, he's like, can't leave early. And I'm the only one that works this late schedule that's on this side of the bridge. So I automatically just got so defensive, like, well, you said if I don't take a lunch, I can leave an hour early. And he looked like, okay, but things are changed. So I was like, damn, I'm being so defensive. And I learned that everything, I have this defense mechanism that just turns on, and now I'm aware of it, and it's quite scary. So I am working on it, guys. Trust me. But it's kind of scary that it's like everything is a defense mode for me. So I noticed it. It's ugly, and I'm working on it.
So let me share this story with you. I gave one of my friends an example of how powerful. So defense thinking compounds. So once you discover you're defensive, now you got to find how your offense is showing up defensive, right? So some of the nice things you do are framed in a defensive way. Okay, let me help you guys really take ownership. You're walking down the street, a person's walking towards you, and they bump your shoulder really, really hard. Mm-hmm. Where does your brain start its rationalization? Does it start defensive, which is, are they trying to attack me? Why they hit me like this? I'm gonna knock this cat out. That's all defensive. Or is it offensive? Damn, are they okay? Are they drunk? Mm-hmm. Do they need support and help? Oh, maybe they're distracted. Maybe they didn't even see me. And then do you respond defensively? What the fuck's up with you? Or do you respond offensively? Hey man, you okay? Now, imagine life, as we all know, is full of unpredictable things happening every day, especially if you run a business. You amplify that times hundreds and thousands, right? But unpredictable things happening every day. So when those unpredictable things happen, what's your starting point of rationalization? Is it offensive? They don't like me. I mean, they offensive. Oh, I don't know. I'm curious. What can I learn from this? Or defensive. They don't like me because I'm a woman. I'm black. Is it, oh, they don't give me an opportunity because they don't usually like to give people like me opportunities. Is it they don't see me? Is it they always been hating on me? Is it they probably went in the back room and getting ready to fire me, and this is all part of the master plan. You see where I'm going with this? Like when you're defensive, think about all the defensive stories compounding in your head. Now imagine you being a human being walking around with the world hating you, on your shoulders, under attack. No one fucks with you. No one loves you. Now you're in a home by yourself, super depressed, and suicide's right around the corner. Go ahead.
So online, Yakapusua said, I had a client request of me something. I thought it was outside the scope of the contract. I caught my defenses before reacting. Boom. As I was in a defensive state, all I thought about was the many reasons I shouldn't be doing that shit. Then I switched gears to offensive because providing this ask actually meant improving my systems to track data that makes my service more efficient. Yes. Cassandra said, my defensiveness isn't verbal. I can sit quietly and listen and shut down and reject everything that is being said in my head. To which I said, get out my business.
Beautiful, Cassandra.
But so I was thinking about mine as like individualism as my defensive response. Like that to me, that's how I show, that's a defensive response. I now think it is. This, like, I do it by myself. I got it. I don't want to be dependent on other people. I was journaling like, gosh, I have a real issue with interdependence. I'm really focusing on that because I didn't realize how much I do not like it.
It's almost like you're preparing your defense argument before it happens.
What?
So if they catch you slipping, you could say, well, I never asked you.
Listen here. Listen here. I don't need shit. I don't need you. I don't need that.
Yeah, it's all
I
defensive
cover
preparation.
my own behind. I got my own CYA files. Got my own CYA books. Gone.
That's defensive fancy footwork. I'm not even exactly. That's what it's called. Okay, give you an example. There's a story was told in this defensive book about So when students go to college, they rarely fail. If they go, if they're graduates, they rarely fail. They have this experience where, if you graduated from college, you don't fail as much as the real world. Then you only have to please one person on your journey, your professor. You have to please every student at college to win their approval. You don't have to win the approval of a single person. So then you go from there now. Now you go into corporate America. You're well celebrated in college. You're defined by accolades by status accolades of saying you're super smart, and you got all these grades and symbols that say, look, I'm this person. So this person goes to corporate America. Watch this, now listen to the story. They go to corporate America and they send this consultant out to perform insights, right? The consultant goes into this environment unfamiliar to them because they've been in this sheltered environment this whole time in college, right? They go into this environment and all of a sudden, they don't really understand what's going on because they're in unfamiliar grounds. So guess what they reach for? Theory. Because they don't have experience. So they grab the theory and go, I think this is what's happening in front of me. Now their brain creates a bias to build evidence for the theory, not see the people in front of them. This is what happens to us, to our community all the time as black people. When white people come to our community, they have a theory and they spend all their time building data to drive their theory, right? So this person goes in front of her supervisor and says, here's my insight report. Well, the supervisor is familiar with the challenge and says, this is a horrible report. And this is why. The student becomes offended. I'm not skilled enough, but I'm offended. How dare you? I'm high paid. I'm here. I'm in this high ranking position. I dare you challenge my position, right? The student performs psychoanalysis on her supervisor.
Yep.
This is why I see in you, right? Mind you, that same student would not want the supervisor to perform psychoanalysis on them, right? This is when that imbalance starts to happen because it's a defense space. So then, after going back and forth, the student says, well, can I just give you feedback? Next time you decide to give somebody feedback, you should start with the positive first and then work your way. Now we're doing fancy footwork. Watch this. You start with the positive first and then work towards the negative. The problem was you started with the negative. Plus, this was a new experience for me, and I was seeing an experience I wasn't aware of. 3, you knew. See what they're doing? Defense. All fancy footwork. And the person on the other side starts saying, oh, I should get positive. No, you shouldn't do shit. It is not my responsibility to weaken my stance to make you comfortable or to soften my truth or to soften the feedback to make you feel, because you're really in a defensive space. If that supervisor starts to respond to her by, oh, I'm sorry, okay, next time I will, oh my God, I'm getting to make sure that we're gonna have a policy, so next time you go to experience, we'll send you with a support person. By the way, you're not getting paid that support money. Or you're getting paid like a superstar, but now you want to get paid like a rookie on the bench. But anyway, if I do this, let me explain to you the outcome of that long term. Now, next time we're in a meeting, I'm going to feel real timid about what I say to you. That means our meetings going to get more and more superficial. That means we're going to become less and less talented of a department to deal with the issues in front of us because there's a chance I may threaten you or embarrass you, meaning that we are on the path of destruction. You see how cold that shit is? A lot of times, when you give people advice and they're defensive, they almost have to come back and you have to almost admit that you was wrong somehow to give a defensive person advice. If I say, Kaja, you brought the wrong product to the class, but sometimes I make mistakes too. You see that? There's no need for that. But what happens is that the more we start playing that game, that's called a defensive loop. We'll get to the point that we're destroying our relationships slowly but surely because each one of us are curating the conversation and simplifying it and removing all the conversation, the rigorous level of dialogue that's necessary to take on innovation and challenging opportunities. We can't do it because you might get offended. When I'm at a point I can't question something, okay. So, doing a lot of work in the gay community. When I first started, I used to raise this argument all the time. I was like, we're never going to integrate until we talk. we don't talk. Straights and gays, we don't talk. I don't talk to straight gay people for real. We could talk superficially, but we don't really have real talks. Like, I have people that's gay in my world that we do have real conversations, but I'm talking about the gay community and the straight community overall don't really talk. So let's say I go to ask you a question about gay culture. Like, for example, let's say I say, I'm talking to you one day, and I go, I don't think I want to go to gay parade. And you say, defensive reference, oh, are you homophobic? Right? Then I'm like, oh, no, I'm not homophobic, whatever. But what you just told me is, you don't really have freedom of expression with me. I'm too defensive for you to really talk to me. Black people do it to white people. All people do it. All people who feel like they're being oppressed by another group do it to the so-called oppressed group, or the people who are insensitive to their oppression. So say now when I engage with the gay community, I keep it safe. I don't question nothing they say to me. They say, we like this. You're like, oh, okay, I guess that's cool, because I don't want no friction. Well, we do it this way. I guess that's cool. I don't want no friction. Pause. Then, see that? Huh? Telegram, huh? Spaceship, Mars, futuristic with my shit. Anyway, so in the context of saying I don't want no friction, pause. Now somebody hires my company to market to the community. Guess who I can't market to? I can't market to the gay community because guess what? I don't see them. You know why I don't see them? Because I can't have a real conversation with them. And then they're going to accuse me at some point going, hey, that marketing campaign you ran towards us was insensitive and didn't see us. Oh, I'm sorry. How is that possible when you don't let people in? Pause. Right? You don't let folks have that conversation. Look.
He's all in.
Hey, bro, I'm a little fast. Hey, my office before we got real square. Well, we still do it, but before we got real square, it was Paul City. But anyway, so what I'm arguing is this: is that you can't even service other groups and other races and other genders if you can't have rigorous dialogue with them and uncomfortable dialogue with them. Because in order for me to see you, I don't need to agree with you. I just need to see you. But I can't see you if I can't ask you questions, because the questions are offensive, because the front line is defensive. So then let's take it back to us as black people. So black people, if you're fighting everybody and no one knows how to show up to you, are you surprised? Like, you can't. Black people, you go get a job. Okay, for example, do you realize, black people, if I took many of you right now and put you amongst high-performing white males, you're too defensive to soak up the game from that experience? Mm-hmm. You're too defensive. Mm-hmm. Because as soon as they trigger by saying something that is insensitive to your definition of your defensive rules, as opposed to like sitting in a room and having an offensive focus point and realize I'm here to receive game. They don't even know me like that. They don't even see me like that. They should have zero value for me because I'm not one of their peers. I didn't come up through the same friction path they came through to grow their business. So how in the hell do I expect them to value me on the same level? So if I get this space, I'm a humble, fly on the wall, quiet servant, whatever the fuck it has to be. So when they show up to you like, why are you here? Well, fine, have a seat there. And you be like, shh. Like if you, on the office side, you be like, cool, this is dope. On the defensive side, you be like, what the fuck you mean, who am I? Right. You get where I'm going with this? There's little things they will say just in casual dialogue because you're so defensive. So guess what they end up doing? Can you just come out, let's just keep them out the room. I can't deal with this. I can't have a free conversation. I can't argue as complex issues or challenging issues. I can't say black, white, Asian, Jew, Latino is wrong. I can't say it. At any point, everything I say has to be right because you're too defensive. That's crazy. Nobody's all right, nobody's all wrong, nobody's all perfect, nobody's all bad. We're living of all that. But yet we only can talk about half of us because defensiveness will not allow us to have that other portion of conversations. If everybody in this room was sleeping with each other, this happens in corporations all the time. But I have to act like there's no sex happening in this room, then I won't understand some of the interactions and breakdown and performances because I have to deny that other portion. They say defensive thinking inside of a corporation is like when there's an underground market inside your organization that's causing behavior you don't understand. Like, like for example, in society, there's an underground market, right? So let's say you came out with a brand new pair of Nikes, and everybody's excited. The media's pumping it, like, oh my God, these Nikes are coming out. But as soon as you release them, you only sell 10 pair. What the fuck happened? Mm-hmm. How come I only sold 10 pair? Because the underground market has been selling that shit for 3 weeks. Right? And so in the end, you thinking, all right, maybe my marketing team is weak. Oh my God, maybe our logistics is off. Maybe we didn't announce at the right time. Maybe we made a poor decision on designs. Not realizing, no, but now imagine this. Defensive thinking, the underground market is managed by the managers above ground. That's how defensive routines within a company works. It's such a destructive thing that it will make you question basic reality. Because in the end, like have you ever sat with somebody? Have you ever listened to somebody in a black community? I'm gonna jump around from black, Latino, Asian, and gay because we're all doing it. White, we're all doing it. You've been in with the black community, and we'll say we want white people to do this for us, but we don't do that for anybody else. Mm-hmm. I know y'all seen this a lot of times. Mm-hmm. We demand, like, why don't they give us this? Okay, what are we giving it to? Well, who else are we providing that for? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? It's just like we have these unreasonable asks when you're defensive because you only look in one direction. You don't have any empathy. You don't see both ways, right? You only see it in one direction. So because you only see life through one direction, you think about what you need, but you don't think about your contribution and your responsibilities to what you need. Mm-hmm. Is that shit cold? Mm-hmm. Are you ready, Shabisha?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Tanil had one as well.
Okay, Tanil's going to be funny. Go ahead. I'm prepared.
My experience is I wrote a jingle for my boss, and he walked out after I sang it, and I felt some kind of way. But after I thought about it for a while, I realized I might have sang it off key, so I'm going to take radical responsibility, move over to offense, practice, and hit him with the upgraded version next week.
Did I warn y'all? Only Tanil. Oh wait, yeah, she was singing a song to me. And I can't take this. I walked out in the middle of the song. All right, let's hit the first slide. So we're gonna jump into this defensiveness a little bit further. Go ahead. That's my first slide.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
No.
That's mine.
Okay, that's the first slide. Keep going. Keep rolling. Next slide.
There we go.
Okay, there you go. All right. I was like speaking candidly.
That's on me.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. All right, Shabisha, let's roll.
I have heard many senior leaders complain that they are unable to have tough and difficult conversations because of the egos around the table.
Okay. Have you guys been in a space where these men, they won't let me in? They don't even see women right now. Have you ever been in a situation, black people, these white people, they don't really see me like that. Men, have you been in a room with a group of women and feel like, they won't hear me? That response, so it seems quite natural that the big egos around the table are at fault, right? Like they're just big ass egos. We all know big egos is not a good thing, right?
Yeah.
You're also at fault for not being able to speak up in that space because you're using their ego as a defense mechanism not to show up. You know, when I'm in a room with men and they don't see me, this is why it's hard on us as women. That's a defense mechanism. We're not unreachable. There's no such thing as an unreachable human being. You just might be tuning into the wrong frequency to speak to us, right? Or you're comfortable with the frequency you come from, not realizing the frequency that you need to adjust to communicate with the person in front of you. So a lot of times people complain that, these egos in the room and you forget the ego is why they're here. Like, they're the ones who are challenging the unknown and the impossible, which requires a degree of ego to show up. And so you try to use that, and then what you're going to try to do is run a campaign to ask them to turn the ego down, not realizing, no, you have to adjust and realize that's the animal you're speaking with. Do you guys remember when you were younger? Did you speak to your brother, your mother, and your grandmother the same? No, you adjusted, correct? Right?
hell no?
Right? You might tell, like, okay, glass breaks in your house. Your brother, I beat your ass, you broke that glass. That's my glass. You broke my glass, I beat your ass. Your mom, hey mom, did you break my glass? Right? If it's your grandmother, grandma, thanks for that glass you gave me. I'm out. You did. Like, it changes, right? The same thing happens in business. It's not, okay, code switching is when you say, and I saw Iguodala do this, I was gonna post it in the group. He was advocating code switching. I'm gonna tell you, don't fucking code switch. Let me say this again to the camera. Don't fucking code switch. Okay, the person who's washing dishes, hey you, don't fucking code switch. All right, listen, you know why code switch is fucked up for you? Because you're telling somebody from the gate, I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. You're literally saying you're better than me when I speak. So I'm gonna adjust the way I speak to be accepted by you.
Period.
That's just code.
Period.
Now, watch me add the addition to that. I do believe in growing your vocabulary and growing your strategical communication. Meaning that people who are dealing with different challenges have a different way you have to approach them. Mm-hmm. In any industry, right? You try to talk to people the way when you try to talk to a basketball player in the middle of an NBA game, in the middle of an NBA playoff, and give him some advice, and you're a fan. Mm-hmm. Watch how security tackles you, right? But maybe on a summer league, and he's chilling, and it's like a few people in the gym, and you walk over, you maybe have that same, not saying he's gonna be fully received, but you maybe have that conversation and actually receive some type of communication in return. So a lot of us go into corporate America, and because we feel it, you should be able to listen or hear us when that's out of alignment. So a lot of times you will then turn into everybody go, oh, they don't listen to me because their egos are out of control. They're misogynists. Can I get y'all to stop saying that stupid shit? They're I don't give a fuck if they are. Figure this shit out. The world doesn't, you don't have a godlike complex. The world's not gonna bow to you. Mm-hmm. But the world can learn to fall in love with you. But you're gonna have to win some games, baby.
Come on.
You can't put the uniform on, walk on the court, look hella fly, expect every race and every gender to just be like, what'd you say? You can't even dribble. What the fuck you talking about? Until we win some games on your name, and till you stand on your business, shut the fuck up. So it's crazy because a lot of times these conversations, what you're hearing is the voices of the weak are getting too loud. Mm. And the voice of the weak are becoming the norm because the voice of the weak is echoing defensive statements that have become popular on social media, and people are canceling people for defensive ass responses. Defensive ass responses. Like, okay, let's keep going. It's just trash. Keep going.
Of course, the conflict exhibited in defensive routines is a result of people coming together with different views and contexts to discuss complex issues.
So think about this. You ever heard somebody say in the office, when this person said this, it offended me, and HR will actually respond to that trash? Because HR is part of the defensive sickness. Complex differences in that room. I want you to understand, the same people who say they believe in diversity better not show any diversity. That's just crazy. If I say I'm older, and I say, look, I was around some gals and guys, and they was at this party, and those chicks was getting off. And you'd be like, motherfucker, I was born in 1967. I wasn't born in 1995. That's just how I talk. You can't see the difference? I can see the difference when I meet older gentlemen, they say certain things to me, I'm like, oh, he's older. That's how he communicates. What's the gist of his point? I don't need him to change the way he communicates. His circle is that circle, right? But yet, we play this defensive game, and if the organization responds to it, it's almost like you would stop the conveyor belt from moving. It will freeze at the conveyor belt because nobody is comfortable talking freely because I don't know what offends you no more. You know what I mean? I don't know. The same person, like The same woman who will say, you offended me, or same male who will say, you offended me, or the same black person you say, or the same gay person, you offended me, will turn around and listen to music that should have offended you a long time ago. But they found your weak ass to validate themselves. Keep going.
Yet the excuse of big egos as a justification for not engaging the conflict is not a satisfying explanation.
It's not satisfying.
The phrases like, there's a personality conflict, or it's all about egos, are an example of causal explanations used to sanction the feeling of helplessness and justify inaction.
That's the key word right there, justify inaction. Defensiveness takes responsibility off of your... Remember I said the opposite of radical responsibility is defensive behavior, right? So when you use those defensive excuses, you excuse yourself from responsibility. They tripping. The community's fucked up. Who's gonna repair the schools? This is what's wrong with black people. This is what's wrong with white people. This is what's wrong with society as you go back to work and do nothing. Or you're part of the problem. You ain't swept the neighborhood since you've been in the neighborhood, but you want to talk about the city, something wrong with the city. You see how you excuse yourself by the blame game? You're putting yourself in a position where, hey, I ain't got to do with me. And you do it in these little cute ways of, sexist, racist, homophobic, ugly, fat, skinny. Something wrong. I mean, think about, okay, I asked a question in my house. I said, if a friend of mine told me I was fat shaming and they were constantly getting bigger and they die, are you mad if I say I can go to that motherfucking funeral? Everybody in my house was like, what the fuck? I was like, do nobody see the inconsistencies? Like, I was on the edge of diabetes. I was picking up weight. I wish y'all would say a little bit more, hey, Nana, hey, I know the extra large look cool, but you know it ain't cool. Because I don't want to be pricking my finger or sitting on the edge of death because we have to be nice. Gotta be nice. That make you comfortable. I want social pressure that says, when I'm laying in bed, oh man, I ain't gonna let court cap on me, I'll get my ass and go to the gym. That shit means something to us as animals. But we at the point where I can't speak on nothing you doing wrong no more. Y'all know I ain't lying. If you doing something wrong and you making it work and it's gonna have a long-term impact on you, not the short-term stuff, short-term takes care of itself. But let's say you drinking every morning and I come to your house and be like, yo, Kaja, seriously, whiskey every morning though, right? She'd be like, you look at your situation, what about, whoop, you see the defensiveness? Now we're in this weird dynamic that now says I'm supposed to give a shit about your life even though I'm not allowed to participate in your life.
Fatality.
Isn't this some crazy shit? I want you to understand how this defensive culture starts to create these weird mutated behaviors and cultural behaviors that are actually is more damaging to us in living, thriving, evolving. Give Kaja the microphone, please.
Thank you.
My voice sounds so fucking weird. I feel like I'm trying to be up here whispering to y'all, but I ain't got no fucking voice. Go ahead.
It's just a song.
Hey. Okay.
Good one, Josh.
All right, Josh. All right,
Good
Josh.
one, Josh.
All right, Josh. You are now within the scope. Go ahead.
Do you think that the difference sometimes is the cultural context, right? Like in the example you just gave, like we all know each other, we see each other over a period of time, or sometimes in companies if you've been on a team or whatever for a while. You may have the context to say, hey, you're wearing an extra large, or whatever the case may be, versus what happens a lot, and I'll just use, you said fat shaming, like I'll use that as an example, but you can apply it in a lot of places. I see the 250-pound body and I make a judgment because I don't know that used to be a 350-pound body. So I don't have the context to shame. So that's why sometimes it's better, it can seem better to just say nothing.
I know. So a lot of times we get these examples in conversation, I think our brain runs because it's defensive reasoning. We went to the extremes. Is there extreme? Is there a form of fat shaming? Yes. Is there a form of racism? Of course. Is there a form of homophobia? Of course there is. We're not removing those things from the table. We're saying if you're defensive, you're extending what that is. So now it could be, hey, I made salads for everybody. Oh, is this you fat shaming? See, that's why I don't go to his fucking parties. He's always trying to fat. No, I made salads because I'm a man. I learned some techniques I want to share with everybody, right? But it becomes extended, right? Number two is that feedback is being broken. That's what defensive thinking does. Because what you don't realize, like, okay, for example, let's say you have a brother who created a messed up lifestyle, right? But he's improved, but now he's at a McDonald's about to have a fight with somebody. And he gives you a call. And he goes, how come you didn't show up? And you say, you don't care for me? My response to him would be, no, you chose that. You're at McDonald's. Well, it's better than I used to be. It doesn't matter. It's better than it used to be. There's a lot of decisions that were made, and now I'm supposed to go overboard. Now, that doesn't get me wrong. Like, I don't walk down the street and like point at somebody, hi, that's fat shaming, right? But if I have a friend next to me, anybody knows me, right? I'm like, yo, you need to work out. I can't say that, right? Or suggesting that, it's like you saying, like, for example, you went to college. You're a college-educated woman, right? Okay, well, damn it, you do all the college. You look like a college-educated woman. But imagine you in a world where everybody says, education's not necessary. So who gives a fuck about school? In the end, is that person happy? Like, is that really the standard? And is happiness a thing, right? But all this conversation, when you have a defense, you start to mutate expectations. I'm not saying run around and call your friends who are overweight tomorrow and be like, yo, really, this shit's real. But I even had a friend of mine call me, a male friend. This happened 2 years ago. He's overweight. He starts complaining about the system, the hospitals, the medicine that's out there. And I asked him, I said, okay, freeze, bro. How many kids you got? Like 3 or 4 kids. You married? Yeah. Got your own business? Yeah. If you don't get your fat ass to go work out, quit playing. When the last time you worked out? Well, I went for a walk about a week ago. If you don't get your big ass out there and work out, how much sugar you eat? Well, I only drink juice. Motherfucker. Like, if I went with that first position of the world's wrong, I'm watching my friend die. And I'm watching these kids live without a father who's actually a talented man who's very strong and very smart. But because his mind is in a defensive loop, he's pointing fingers and blaming, and I gotta sit there. So now when a dude die, and I'm like, yo, that ain't my responsibility. You're like, Donnie, you're an asshole. No, I'm not an asshole, because if I can't speak on it, what the fuck you want me to do? You want me to speak on it after he's dead? No, I'm not. I couldn't speak on it when you was alive. I sure the fuck ain't gonna speak on it when you dead. I'm out.
Also, too,
Microphone. You ready? Go ahead.
check. Also, too, is that we want people around us to create perspective. A lot of times when we're in the weeds and we're going after a goal, say it's working out or whatever, and we lose 50, 60, 70 pounds. A lot of times your brain wants to get comfortable. It does. It wants to get comfortable. Like it looks at what it did. Good friends around you will say, you still got more to go. So I don't want people letting me settle. You know, I don't want people around me to let me settle. To say, hey, because guess what? We come from the hood. We come from poverty. We came from the dirt. So middle class is damn good. A corporate job, shit, we won from that perspective. Because like, damn, look at where I come from. But the goal that we have says that don't mean nothing. I need friends to tell me, yo, Court, I know, squash all that. We still got far to go. And stop whining about where you've been. We got shit to do. And sometimes it's good to step back and look at where you've gone, but the people that you really want around you will hold you to the fire of where you want to be.
Okay, so watch this, Kaja, because I know your brain. I want to satisfy it. You understand me? With his voice, it just sounded so wrong. With this, y'all forgive me at home because that's not what I meant. But my voice just sounded like I was flirting my ass off. But let me satisfy your mind. You understand me? No, check this out. This conversation in this context and what Court just highlighted, it requires rigorous thinking. But you can't rigorously think about this because it's too fragile. So there is a point when it's inappropriate, there's a point when it's appropriate. It's the right person to have the conversation, it's the wrong person to have the conversation. But the complexity will never have a chance to breathe because the sensitivity is so high, it's binary now. Strategy does not live in a binary world. Strategy is, there's a time and place for everything, right? That cannot exist if it's just a hand slap for those who even think about it, close or not close. So in order for us to have a conversation on how do we deal with weight in America, right? Because food adjusted for multiple reasons, but how do we deal with weight as far as our personal responsibility? That means we want to be able to have a conversation, and everybody in the room needs to be different sizes and be a part of the conversation and be able to get to a point where we have these rich hypotheses we can test to bring solutions to the world. We can't bring solutions to the world because we're too busy following scripts based upon defensive thinking. You see where I'm going with that? That's the trash. It's not that I'm anti anything. I don't know what that means. What I'm arguing is that to get to a point where we can have healthy conversations about the black community, the gay community, the Asian community, the Latino community, the overweight community, the overskinny community, all that's just a conversation. It's a conversation. Education of our kids, those are conversations. All of our kids can't be great, I'm sorry. But it doesn't mean they're worthy of being thrown away. It's worthy of deep, uncomfortable dialogue that has to happen to produce the innovation to move us forward as a race. You see where I'm going with this? So I don't want to try to own the answer here because it deserves rigorous dialogue and insight and sensitivity and data, right? But when we get to a point where we can't have that because it's so defensively surrounded, I don't know what that means. Now we're all stuck in a world where our people are dying at a high rate of diabetes, and I dare you fat shame, and you're being validated for that weight, right? It's like, and sometimes there's a heavyweight person that should be validated for that weight, right? But it's a complex dialogue. It's not as simple, it shouldn't live in this moral right versus wrong category. But that's because we started with defense first, and then we lobbed it into this category of simplistic thinking, which means we can't address it. We all have these surface conversations that do no justice to none of these issues, whether there's gender or racial or body shaping or age or anything else that create a difference in human beings. Keep going on this one.
It is too easy to write off defensive routines as personality conflicts and leave them alone.
See?
This is a surface explanation.
See?
And it fails to take into account how all parties are interacting together to create a negative result no one intends or desires.
So a lot of times, if you say they have ego problems and then you start to respond to it, we're all part of the problem, right? It doesn't relieve the leadership of they should work on their egos because they still need to be able to navigate and they don't want to be blinded by their own voices in their head. But it's in workspaces, we're talking about like creating systems for people to work in. You got to create a safe space where we can discuss anything and be wrong or fail and still be valuable. Not your values only defined by wins and how much you align with certain ideas. You guys get where I'm going with that? So that's the challenge of some of this stuff is defensiveness makes the environment too rigid for innovation, training, evolution, conversations, rigorous meetings where we're having deep conversations to solve complex problems that could give us a marketing edge or improve our position in the market. We can't do that because we're too sensitive in these spaces. Next slide. Here we go. That's the key word. Go ahead.
Dysfunctional teams, strained working relationships, and toxic environments are not the result of company policy and procedure, but of human design.
Okay, stop. Is that your code? If your work environment is toxic, it's not company related. It's human design issues. This is why when you're running a company or you're working with people at any level, you got to think about how am I designing the relationships, how people come together, how they engage, how they talk. Otherwise, you can have a good idea that works really, really well on paper, bring people in the room and the shit crashes and burns because you didn't design the human relationship well. Like the rules of how we talk, why we do this, what's expected of us, what exercise we're going to have to engage in so we can get to this form of communication, right? You don't design that environment. You think if I just put a group of people in a room and we all care about the same stuff, we should be successful. Have you ever guys seen a group of pro-black people really collaborate really well together? They don't. They just assume we're all in a room, it's going to work. A whole bunch of defensive people in the same room? Have you guys ever, I think this one dude, somebody told me the other day, they said, is it crazy how, they said they went to, they met with a triad in China, which is Asian gangsters. And the gangster said, it's crazy how, with all the art that black people bring to the world, even in underground organized crime, black people can't organize and stay together. Is that some crazy shit? Crazy shit. Because human designs, and I see this all the time when I work with companies, they have this plan, X's and O's, X's and O's, X's and O's. They don't see the people. If you don't see the people, it doesn't translate. That's why diversity plans never work in corporate America. They don't understand human designs. They focus on system designs.
Real quick, Nana, can I?
Go ahead.
That's also why data alone doesn't work. If you get so caught up in X's and O's, you stop seeing people.
100%. Keep going.
By design, I mean that there is a thought behind the action that creates these negative results. The thought is a particular kind of defensive reasoning that protects us from potential threat and embarrassment. In other words, we have been schooled in a socially learned mental model.
So, if you know black people, I feel some kind of way. That means there's some thought behind your feeling that's dictating your outcome. Now, if 10 of us in this room feel some kind of way, and one day we just happen to run into each other in the hallway, and we kind of speak with that feeling, we will become a separate group that become a defensive superpower that unconsciously work against the things we believe in. So the things you want and how you're showing up produces things you don't want. Things you want and how you show up will produce things you don't want. Because when you're responding from a defensive space, what you get in return is not what you ask for. Remember, when you're defensive, what are you doing? You're throwing up walls, right? But guess who's stuck behind those same damn walls? Your blind, dumb, silly ass. Straight up, you can't see shit. You dumb as hell because you've been so defensive. You done blocked all kind of feedback, and you silly as shit because you think that shit makes sense. Blind, dumb, and silly. Okay. So organization. Okay, go to start with organization managed.
Organizations managed with such a mentality find it difficult to use the latest ideas of strategy.
So, a new idea or a new strategy in the company does what to the company? You know what new strategy does?
Changes?
It threatens people's value. It even embarrasses the person who pulled the lever on the old strategy and said, this is a secret sauce, and now you're about to go in another direction. You're threatening that person and you're embarrassing that person, right? Today we was in a meeting. Lady was bragging about her brochure. This brochure is gonna change the world. Brilliant brochure. And she put the brochure in front of me. And mind you, I'm in charge of this bigger project that her brochure will eventually fit within. She's like, yeah, we put this brochure in every bag that, every business person comes to the city, get this brochure. So there was a Indian sister, brilliant as fuck. And she was like, well, honestly, I would only put my company in this brochure because I just want to keep my relationship with the city, but there's no value in this brochure to me. I don't see how it will work. And she stopped right there. Brilliant. Here come Nana, because I'm used to being in the offensive world. And I said, actually, there's another big problem with this brochure. She said, what? There's no hierarchy. So it's just noise. No. Well, it's my brochure. She got embarrassed. She can't embrace a new strategy. Oh, well, that's not, see, we designed this a long time ago. It was around, we had, at the time, the city was changed, and these things happened. She just stayed in a defensive, like about 10 minutes of defensive, just going back. She threw about 20 defensive booby traps in front of me. And we're to the point I was like, I'm going to turn around and go back and sit down in my chair. right? Defensiveness gets to a point where you can't adopt the newest strategies because it comes off as an attack to the individuals within the group. Like, for example, okay, let's say Corey Smith blows up to where he's doing $50 million a year, right? That means some of the shit he's doing today, he just cut that. That's an old legacy system that he has to cut loose because it's causing losses for him. But what that legacy system he cut loose, Jordan's been training in that one category his whole time. That's all Jordan understands. That means Jordan knows if he cuts that system loose, now he's not going to, it's not a conscious awareness, it's a defensive awareness. So now Jordan will start to find ways to use his fancy footwork to start to cause corporate disruption, right? Because at the end of the day, he's trying to avoid the disruption. Now, all the people who like Jordan are joining him because they've had some kind of run-in with leadership that says, yeah, that's what's happening. Now you have a mutiny happening from your staff because why? You're trying to embrace innovation and strategy because you're starting from a defensive foundation. Can I see how cancerous this shit is? Like you literally, your company stops growing. It's literally just waiting in the ocean, hopefully it drifts somewhere. Keep going.
Let's see.
Cost accounting? Or do we got
Nope. Yep. Cost accounting, marketing, manufacturing, finance, information technology, and human resources, because these ideas are based on rigorous and tough reasoning rather than on defensive reasoning.
See that? So the opposite of defense reasoning is rigorous reasoning. So if you constantly have to design these, okay, have you ever worked in a company before? Can you take a cookie cutter product and just plug it into any company and it works, copy and paste? It doesn't, right? You have to figure out how to adjust it within your company to make it useful to your company. But that means you're gonna have to engage in some rigorous dialogues and challenge some ideas that have been superior, that's been championed by each individual in this room. But if I gotta navigate around what I can and cannot say, I'm gonna go home tonight and leave that shit alone. Mm-hmm. Meaning that all those categories, strategy, cost accounting, marketing, manufacturing, finance, information technology, human resources, are all gonna fail because we're not comfortable having those rigorous, like we just did about the overweight, rigorous dialogue that allows us to say, how do we think about this moving forward? Instead, it's, okay, we're gonna offend the blacks, and we might offend the gays, and we might offend the whites. So let's just say, Christmas party, huh? I want to think of Christmas, right? That's literally how it happens. If you ever sit in those meetings, and then especially if one of the people in the room who's like a serious activist, and they're literally slapping hands every time somebody says something wrong. Now that meeting gets so superficial, they didn't just read the minutes, talk about what they did on the weekend, address one thing, and they're out. It's too sensitive. And nobody will even say, are we going the wrong direction? Because if I say going the wrong direction, my loyalty to management, which is now in the defensive culture, has been threatened. In the offensive culture, I don't want you to be loyal to me like that. I need you to tell me what the fuck you see. Mm-hmm. See the difference? Keep going.
More importantly, designed error and its cover-up are the foundations for producing unethical behaviors in ways that seem reasonable, if not necessary.
You know what? If management doesn't see it, don't trip. You know what? Hey, Kaja, how I'm doing? Nana, you're doing really good. Because you know I'm too defensive to tell me the truth. Mm-hmm. So now you're lying to me every day. Watch me destroy myself, going back to the fat shaming conversation. Mm-hmm. You watch me destroy myself and destroy this company. Because at the end of the day, you can't tell me the truth, because if you tell me the truth, I might go off on you, might even fire you. So in the end, Nana, you know you the shit. Come on, dog. I brought you a little statue, a little bobblehead. Pause. Go ahead.
Y'all don't know how fire this shit is.
This shit is so fucking powerful. It's crazy. Go ahead.
Okay. Is it on? Okay. So this is a question that I have been having for the last 2 weeks that I have personally been struggling with. This class is by far one of the dopest things I've ever been exposed to.
Thanks, family. Thank you.
By the way, we just celebrated 11 years. Today's my company's anniversary, and it's because of this class.
Oh, right on.
And yeah, damn.
You hit the wrong one. Well, yeah. Oh God, that was
Them
great.
double digits ain't nice to you, man. All right. So every year, I opened up my company around the time of my birthday because I was like at some stupid decision-making point in my life where I was like, buy a house or open a business. It's the stupidest thing ever. I actually talked about it last year during our 10-year. I was like super reflective. And I feel like every time around this year, because there's so many new beginnings for my company and myself, I think a lot more for some reason. I don't know what it is. But I was doing my journaling, and I feel like being in the double digits as a company, I've learned how to have a lot more acceptance and grace for myself. Like, I'm not as harsh on myself, and I give myself a lot more room for error. But I have a lot more expectations of myself as well, because as I'm growing, if I don't adjust my expectations, I'll die. As simple as that. And so one of the things that's kind of been bothering me is in rerunning through some of this information that we did last year and even coming across new information, I'm really struggling with my old practices of consuming things because I know it's what I'm supposed to be doing for survival. That's like my autopilot response is, I got to put in so many hours a week to grow my business. I got to have so much FaceTime, et cetera, et cetera. All these things I have to do, the shoulds and stuff, versus my conscious mind of like really stopping and pausing and being intentional about things. And I'm realizing that there's a lot of frustration around not just learning and exposure to new things, but then when I'm getting exposed to things that, let's say my brain will process as friction based, I don't know what to do with them. And I know it's from like a defensive space, but there's like this expectation of myself because of how long I've been around that like I should have stuff figured out, or just the conversation of like, why am I not serious, right? Like, or like, am I serious? Or how is that supposed to show up? There's just like this internal friction. And I know that I'm not supposed to be like in this serene space by any means, but I've just been talking with other entrepreneurs, and I constantly am just like in weird spaces because I'm a young entrepreneur and because I have been defensive my entire life. I've built a defensive culture around me. So then when I try to have unveiling conversations to try to dig my way out of being defensive, I ain't got the support because I haven't built it. And so just, I don't know, trying to figure out what does it look like to be exposed to all this stuff, to even be able to identify when I am defensive, to know what I'm doing is defensive, probably even be able to call it out and tell somebody else what they should do. But my autopilot and heuristics are just so damn ingrained in the opposite. So like, what do you do with that? Even like when you know you're doing something, but you also respect that like change takes time. How do you process that?
Yeah, well, a couple of things is you answered most of it, and your explanation. I was like, well, next question. he just because you built a culture and you built a system around you that's isolated you, and your isolation is killing you. But to start the journey accurately, it starts with you, and that means, you know, like reflection time. If you don't have any reflection time, and I'm talking about real reflection time, as opposed to did you tell yourself a defensive story that made your reflection time a noisy time? Do you really know how to just sit in a space and have a conversation with yourself that's not defensive versus offensive in your head, but just why do I do this? Why do that? Is that true? Is it true? What can I learn from that? And then take some of those conversations and have it with people who are moving in a space who are also practicing the same discipline. Entrepreneurs in isolation, this shit is very difficult because everything around us is defensive. And so if you just try to just respond to the normal ebb and flow of society around you, then what's going to happen is that you'll be an offensive defensive thinker. You think you're defensive, you think you're offensive as you move in a defensive way, right? Because defensive goes way, even like, I think what was dope that she highlighted, and this is very important, she's designed a whole defensive world. Meaning that she doesn't even have, like I have an offensive world. So me and Mashama talk all the time. If I call Mashama right now, he is going to automatically position himself in an offensive dialogue. If he calls me, I'm going to position myself in an offensive. Doesn't mean you don't have some defensive or there's a time to be defensive. It's not an absolute here. But we know how to balance the conversation with the offensive versus defensive, right? Sometimes I might ask, who did it? But no, I'm only gathering that to understand what I missed so I can take responsibility. See what just happened? So I use a defensive approach to start the path to get to an offensive positioning to improve my strategy moving forward or what I did not see previously. What I don't do is stop at who did it and then start to go down the path of punishing or building a degree of fairness around what happened to me because of what they did. See the difference? So when you develop defensive, this is new. I just brought this to class. Well, I brought it to you 3 weeks ago. Okay. Every year as I get better, so you know when I started my offensive journey? Was the second year of this class. The first year you took this class with me, no one was here Josiah was here. That first year was all defensive teaching. Y'all don't want to do this shit, you get the fuck up out of here. Josh, that's how I was, right? Yeah. Josh said he was one of the people that wasn't even in the room. But I was much more harsh. But what happened was, it was Diallo and Danielle, because I was always observant and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And as I was working with Danielle was younger at the time. She's a woman now, but she was a young woman. And Diallo was around 10. And I realized it just doesn't translate. This doesn't work. And I was arguing with my father-in-law all the goddamn time. I'm talking about we start arguing at 11. The argument ends at 4 o'clock in the morning. And we didn't stop. There was no words stopped. We just... And I realized, what's fucking wrong with me? Right? I had to like fight and defend and argue. Me and Mashama used to be debate. We used to go back and forth, but we would debate each other, but we would also not over-debate each other. But I realized, and Mashama used to be a debate master. Like, you got to debate with him, oh, you had no chance. Unless you had AI on your side in the 90s, you had no chance, right? So what we discovered was we were losing because of this shit. And then it was encapsulated within our ego. Our ego protected it. Fuck you, I'm me. That's why the fuck you gonna get this, right? When I started the journey, I am now, 7 years into practicing aggressive offensive thinking? And the team started to come along with us maybe 2 or 3 years after I came online. And the team started to evolve. Now, if you sit in our Monday's meetings, it's very offensive, extremely offensive. Now we were working on, that's how we became more of a strategy company than a design company. If we would have stayed defensive, we would have never got past designs. We had to learn how to see offense to help others. How can I help you if all I see is defense? If I can tell you, okay, you know what, Kosh, you did this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. How to do it right? I don't know if I tell you. That's not helpful, right? I have to embrace offense to show up to support others. right? To help my clients. Hey, Nana, we got this problem. Yeah, I can see all these problems. What do you want me to do? That's what defense does to you. You don't really have nothing in your offensive arsenal, right? And so once I start growing my offensive arsenal, it's a long journey, right? In that journey, you have to learn how to be extremely humble and say something I used to say to you a long time ago, fuck your feelings. Because your feelings is going to keep pulling you back to the defense. My feelings be saying, man, every time some shit happened, just recently, some white dude said something crazy to me, and my defense revved up because my wife's with me. And I think Shakita was there, my wife was there. I got 2 black women on behind me. This white dude said something defensive. And I was like, what the fuck you just said to me? And it was at Starbucks. And defense went on instantly, right? Oh, there's a difference between this Nana and old Nana. My wife says, babe, he has mental health problems. Cut it down. It stopped. It wasn't even like, yeah, well, the motherfucker, you say another word, I'm gonna fuck. No, it was done. Defensive Nana would say one more fucking word, I'm gonna fuck you up so fast you're not gonna believe it. Just even utter. Just let some spit come out your fucking mouth and watch what happened. Right? That's old Nana. I didn't have much patience for a lot of back and forth, right? But as soon as my wife said, hey, babe, we just got to run in. I haven't eaten yet. Dude said some crazy shit. My daughter's there too. Oh yeah, my daughter was there. So y'all know I'm on like straight, I kill anybody. And all of a sudden my wife says, Nana, he has mental behavior problems. Oh, my bad. Hey man, go ahead, man. It's all good. Right? That's even an improvement. It's a continuous, aggressive, and I learned to turn my fucking feelings down quick because my feelings would get me to that point that it will make a thought, a story, an action, a reality, a punishment upon me. That's how cold this shit is. So it is practice. It is putting people around you that know how to speak from office. A lot of times, like Arnold Perkins, OG, right? Your father, Shabisha's father, he's very offensive when you talk to him, right? There's certain people I would surround myself in my world that would just, if I talk to them, they're only gonna talk to me about offensive shit. They're not gonna spend, my original mentor tried defensive talk with him. It's like talking to an ant and looking for the ant. So what do you think? Why you keep moving? What do you think? It's not gonna go nowhere. Because there's certain people, so I have so many offensive people in my life, and then when I'm around defensive people, what I'm learning, my new stage is just cut the argument off. Otherwise, I'm in the loop. If I keep responding to you, I'm now part of the problem. So guess what I do now? I see you, I just saw what you just did. When you're ready, let me know, I'm out. Because what you're trying to do is, this is your fancy dance to get me where I'm playing this dance with you, and then I'm compromising our relationship. I'm not gonna change this position. I see what you did, I'm gonna tell you what you just did, and when you're ready to have a conversation, I'm here for you. But what I'm not gonna do is engage in this, and now from across the room you can't tell who's on what level. You see what's happening? Go ahead.
So there's a question. Can you talk more about the relationship between radical responsibility and defense thinking? Because I understood radical responsibility to take responsibility over everything in your domain, but now I'm hearing maybe that taking too much control is defensive?
Yeah, because she did a tit for tat. Defensive thinking is not a tit for tat, which is I take responsibility, so now I got to control it, because control is defensive. That's called unilateral. Unilateral leadership is defensive, meaning that as long as everything going the way I want it to go, this company's cool. Now, when y'all disrupt this shit, I'm gonna give it a second, and if it doesn't work the way I want to, I'm gonna take over this control because this is out of control. Now, if it's out of control too long, I'm unhappy. I'm gonna go become superpower. I'm gonna flex my muscles because my main form of strategy in my mind is shit go the way I want it to go. So control in that, she said, well, I mean, so non-defensive, okay, here's the thing. Life will throw random things at you that's unpredictable. Non-defensive says this: I will design a company that will give ownership to multiple people that will allow me to see opportunities and exploit those opportunities that I would have no value for, that may change my life forever. But or if you, when you're unilateral, being that you can't know and see and understand all, being that you're automatically limited by default, your company can only go as far as you can go. But when you allow others to participate in the evolution of your company, it can become something you can't even imagine. Yeah. If somebody told you to decode your company, if you allow your company to have its free reign and move freely in an intelligent way, there's still a structure and system to it, but it's more free-flowing and it's not outside of your control. One day you look at it and if somebody interviews you say, explain your company to me, you'd be like, look, I'm gonna try to simplify it because that's all I got for you. Because at some point, it will get outside of your range of capabilities. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So real quick, let me finish that answer her question. Mm-hmm. Radical responsibility is, I see this happening in front of me, and I say, I'm gonna take ownership from this, meaning that, go back to, of course, slides. It was in one of his slides. Go back. Okay, no, go back, go to me, let me see, to me, go by me. Okay, belief. That belief is a radical responsibility move. Mm-hmm. A problem's happening. I'm gonna take ownership of it, right? But I will learn from, problems are here for me to learn from. So what can I learn from this problem? That's the first question you want to ask, right? And then what can I create because of this problem? Mm-hmm. I'm in control of this problem. I'm learning from it and I'm creating with it. Mm-hmm. I'm not going they, which means, guess what? I relieve myself of responsibility and the world's passing me by, mm-hmm. right? So you're engaging. Control is the idea of what I sense the world should be and there's nothing else. So that's a difference, right? But radical belief is not something happens, so now I got to take on all the burdens, the costs, Sometimes I just learn from that. I can outsource the problem, I can sell the shit off, I can have all kind of options. I don't have one option. I have a plethora of options based upon my strategy. But what can I learn and what does this allow me to create? Like, okay, have you ever been inconvenienced by a family member or a child and you had to change your patterns, but then something new came out of it that you liked? That's kind of the same thing. Because it's your child. You didn't say, damn, you know, fucked up in school. Pack your bags, get the fuck about this house. I'm done with this shit. You may then spend more time educating your child to only discover there's been neglect in the relationship. And now you realize I'm gonna create a new system based upon this crisis that just happened over here, which allows me to be in an offensive win role no matter what's happening to you. You're learning from it. Problems are happening all the time. You're constantly downloading the problems and learning as opposed to blocking them, blaming, removing, which means I'm still stupid when the problem's gone, right? But by me taking ownership of the problem, I'm now becoming a student of my own problems. Meaning that when somebody meets you 20 years from now, they're like, how do you know how to solve all these problems so well? How do you navigate so quickly? How do you skip over problems that everybody's trying to climb over? Because in the early stages, when problems happen, you took radical responsibility. You learn from them, and you allowed them to allow you, sometimes they gave you new markets to serve, new opportunities in the market, new design solutions, all kind of shit came from your ownership. But as you give up ownership, you find yourself in a position that the world is still a mystery to you, and you're this innocent soul in this big complex world making dumbass moves. Is that shit cold? So radical responsibility is not, pull out that moral shit. So some of y'all get stuck in that moral like, okay, good and bad, I wanna go to heaven, so I'm gonna do good. No, it's own it to become it. By you divorcing it, you stay a child to the world you exist in. Right? Control is a separate issue in itself. Unilateral management is destructive towards your evolution and growth because once again, defensive thinking says, I'm not looking for you to influence where I want to go. I'm just looking for you to help me get there the way I want to get there. Don't talk about no change directions. Don't turn pinpoint to blue and call it point pin. I didn't ask for that shit. I want you to do what pinpoint in orange is going to go that way. How can you contribute? But Shakina, there's more money over here.
to you, but I believe it's over here. This is really how it works. This is how it really works. Every time I run across somebody who's running a program to help entrepreneurs, and I sit down with them to advise them, people who have jobs, that they're approaching it wrong, their defense wall goes up, and nothing I said means anything to them. Never means anything to them. They're like, oh, here we go. Oh, Nana. Oh, Nana's mean. This happened to us in the, what's the group called? Kamara, whatever the name of that fucking group was. Kapoor. We have a meeting with Kapoor. Fuck them, I'll say what the fuck. They can't whoop me. So anyway, we have a meeting with Kapoor, right? And we're talking about business and black people. I'm not here to play, I'm here to work on some, let's put the work in. So some issues come up, and I start to challenge the issues. And guess what? None of you being disruptive. We don't want none of you no more. He's asking too many questions. You're causing friction. Some people get offended like, well, I believe in that, so you're telling me I'm wrong? Yeah, I'm telling you wrong. I don't know what the fuck I'll tell you. Like, if you do the equation, it's gonna come out wrong. Oh. So what about when I was this and you were, and what about you? You just, how much you make it? See what happened? Now they're trying to create me in a defense loop. I'm like, yo, are we here to build a business or not? Are we here to work on some shit or not? Or am I here to make sure everybody in this room is comfortable while my community suffers? Ask me what I'm trying to do. And often we have that conversation. So now, where do I have to grow from that? Because once again, I can't blame all of them. Choose my rules wisely. Strategize timing. Understand if you're not built for that, why am I even talking to you about this? I'm actually forcing. If you've been a jogger your whole life, and I'm talking about you want to get this weightlifting competition, and I wonder why you just never show up because you're running. You fucking jogger. That's me, right? So part of me is like, I have to think about strategy more as I approach these rigorous dialogue, because right now my community is dying from oppressive habits because we can't have rigorous dialogue on how to solve the problems because everybody's gonna get offended. Bill Cosby said, pull your pants up, and y'all canceled him. I just want you to understand, he didn't say, look, you ugly black, blah, 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 you little coons, don't you, blah, blah. Then I understand, cancel him. I'm with you, cancel. He said, pull your pants up. We're so defensive. He was like, man, cut the dude off, man. I want to see another show in my life.
Sure did.
Wow.
I just want y'all to just sit there. This is before the sexual stuff, right? Now, the sexual stuff, I'm not challenging that one. But I'm talking about pull your pants up. That was enough to cancel Bill Cosby. Do you understand? If you just to measure the sensitivity level of our community, we're in the red. We're in the fucking red. So then how do we engage in rigorous dialogue to solve our own fucking problems unless we first deal with defensive thinking as an issue before we can even get to the fucking problems? We're ill-equipping ourselves to solve our own fucking problems because we're too defensive. Like, a white person, you should be able to sit down with Donald Trump tomorrow and don't give a fuck about all the shit he's saying. Like, yo, is there some value here I can use to change this over here? Not, oh, when he said this has offended me, he said, yeah, well, fuck, he's that type of dude. His era of men, they had orgies at the office. That's his era of men. That man's 70-some years of age. That's a whole different generation of men. Mm-hmm. He don't have the 40s, 50s and down version of men, which have more respect and more cultural alignment for this idea of how we're supposed to show up, which is kind of funny because then if I was to say, yeah, Donald Trump is sexist, y'all be like, yeah, nah, cool. I'd be like, man, Sexy Red is fucked up. Nah. Yeah, my brown and pink, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
All right now.
Hey, look, that's all I heard. That's all I keep. They repeat that all the time. My point is this.
That's true, though.
But I'm saying, like, that shows you how defensive thinking becomes upside down and illogical because it's more about focus on defense than a solution. Now imagine your company becoming like that. Stay with me. Stay with me. I'm building a business class. This is not a pro-black go say the community, even though if we build our businesses, that's what will happen. I'm suggesting to you guys that many of us are taking those principles and ways of thinking into our businesses, even hiring some people in leadership who are championing those ideas, and then wonder why your company becomes toxic. I'm keeping this shit
I'm trying to
100.
carry
Nonprofits are full of this toxic shit. I see so many nonprofits because nonprofits are full of activists. And activists are so inconsistent. The world should do this. You haven't paid child support yet? I just want to just check in on you. I'm keeping this shit 100.
I'm
Like, you so busy. You know, I love black women. Really? Really? And your baby, your kid, your daughter hasn't seen you for how many months now?
Ooh.
I'm keeping it 100. Like, I come from the conscious community. That shit was weird. And I'm still pro-black, but I'm not doing that shit. Because I'm not, when you come offensive, you start seeing how shit is out of alignment and shit don't make sense and how we could contradicting ourselves. You're like thinking, okay, I'm gonna say, okay, for the white men who are listening, I'm about to throw y'all a nugget.
I can't stand.
Josh said, thanks,
Josh,
brother.
you on fire today, boy.
Josh says, thanks,
Josh
brother.
is doing good today.
Do you realize that white men are looking at like at the DEI as it sounds fucking crazy? You know why? Because DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, sounds fucking crazy to white men. And it's not because of racism. You know why? Because you're asking them to switch power positions with them. You didn't take it from them because you outperformed them. Everybody can respect that. Most people in business at a healthy business level, if Shakina gets beat because you ran a better business, she knows that's a sign that she needs to improve, not you shouldn't become so good. Right? Oh, what's about to fall? Oh. But a lot of times DEI is saying, I sit in these rooms. We need to provide these things for black, Latino, Asian, and different genders, but exclude white men. So what you're doing is, if the white man said the exact same thing back to you, you would not tolerate that shit. If he said, I need to provide this for all my Italian, Irish, English, and German brothers, and exclude the rest of those people, you'd be like, oh my God. But you say that in these DEI meetings. And the reason it's such a distortion is because you can't see. You really can't see. Okay, watch this. Kaja, your great auntie killed hella people. Now that you're 18, I think you need to serve 20 years in prison. And then give me everything you got. How do you feel about that? Oh, you comfortable? Anybody in this room comfortable? I don't know about you. I can depend my ass. If my great auntie who I don't fucking know, I don't even fucking know my great auntie. I don't even have no access to her. And you now tell me I need to spend 20 years for this heifer? You got me messed up. Heifer is my age group. For those of you online, I am 56. Heifer was the end of my childhood for my great grandmother. So now I still think it's funny. Anyway, go ahead.
So just 2 quick points. And I'm probably slightly biased because I work in DEI practitioner.
Oh, poor baby. Bless your heart. Hey, there's some holy water by the door, and we're going to bless you. Pastor Christian, we'll give you a call later on tomorrow. But go ahead.
No, but for real, my job is to create retention and progression strategies for underrepresented groups at parity, right? We want to engage other people in the solution. It's not to your detriment. We want to make you a part of creating parity for these groups that have been underrepresented, but we didn't make them underrepresented. This is how that structure was created. We're just trying to even it out. But here's the other point that I want to make in tandem with that. It's not a ration, it's an invoice. I don't want to say not that you don't owe, but you do owe it to other groups to create a little bit more equilibrium. It has been out of balance.
So if I give you something, that's okay. Let's take Kaja's Cakes, the best company in the world. And Kaja now has to take on a labor force who's been underserved in every possible way and put them in positions of decision making to only weaken your relationship to competition, to probably even the detriment of your company. You cool with that? See, I believe in diversity, equity, inclusion. I think that the way we're approaching it sucks. I absolutely believe in diversity, equity, inclusion. I do believe that, but do you qualify us to take those roles and then work on that conversation? Or do you underqualify us? Meaning that, okay, when you listen to diversity, equity, inclusion in those rooms, the people who are handing it out don't have the brilliance because it's too sensitive in the room to have the real conversation. So, for example, you might say, hey, we want to improve more races in my university. But I don't want to talk to K through 12. And I don't want to discuss the challenge. I don't want to discuss what they need. I don't want to offend nobody. I just want them to come in, somehow adjust to our culture, and it just works out for them. And I don't really need to know their background because it's too sensitive to me. You see what's happening there? It's like DEI becomes tokenized because no one sees nobody. Like, most people don't see other people. Now, if it's in your personal life, I'm talking about, it's different, right? But I'm talking about like when we're trying to serve other people. For example, if I had to perform DEI for the Cantonese community, I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't really know what the fuck that is. And I can't even say that shit and have a healthy dialogue to discover it, because as soon as I get in that dialogue, it's about to get chopped up down really short because of defensive thinking, right? 2, when you say somebody owes me, you will tell the people who are going to receive their ticket they're entitled. That's a dangerous space, because at the end of the day, I want more people here, but you don't get to underperform because of the past, but you should be able to have an opportunity to be here because of the past. You see the difference? That's a rigorous dialogue again. The simple approach that we have, the way they designed it, is just turned into punish white men and give people of color opportunities. Shut up. That's when I'm in these rooms, I'm like, what? That's not gonna sustain itself, because at some point the white man be like, so wait a minute, you mean all of them going to get all this support and I don't, even though I didn't come from a rich white family? Because every white person ain't rich. That's so fucking far from the truth. I know more poor white people than you want to discuss. There's a lot of white people making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. A lot of these restaurants are being, if you go to a restaurant and white people are working there, they broke. Most of the time they broke. But when you see the white skin, you associate them with the richest white billionaire in the world and then say, well, he's a billionaire, so I'm entitled. No, all this shit is confusing because rigorous thinking is missing. I'm saying if we take this conversation out of popular moral dialogue and defensive, you owe me, that's a defensive start point. That in itself is going to poison the well. You got to start from saying, what is the offense and what roles are we playing in this DEI conversation? And how do we take responsibility for some of that? So my wife is getting a promotion where they're training her for CFO role. That's big money role. So the first thing I told my wife was, don't let them train you. You come to the table and grow yourself. Otherwise, you're going to move as a weight on their back. And at some point, they're going to dump the weight because they have to move with efficiency. If they give you a dime, you come back with $10. That means that you start today studying the role of CFO and you get in the culture and the rhythm of a CFO. Even your personal lifestyle must adjust now, not because they told you to. The more they tell you, the less trust and value they have in you. You see how we're taking responsibility? As opposed to, it's good, a black person, oh my God. And then when she get fired, what happens? See, they don't want black women. No, if she doesn't step up and handle her business, I would fire you too. Straight up. You guys get on going with this? Like, you guys are missing the X and O's because you're trying to make the X and O's a moral story when it's an X and O story. If I don't make money, I don't give a fuck. If my company goes broke, we don't have a place to discuss DEI in. So if I don't run an efficient system and a competitive, if I can't run the Golden State Warriors and winning 77 games, I don't give a fuck about no race, color, gender, none of that shit. Nana will fuck with any race, any gender, if it allows me to be a 77 winning season. Mm-hmm. I'm not willing to do 10 games, I'm not willing to be the Washington Wizards in the name of diversity. That's the Washington Wizards thing. Them motherfuckers ain't won shit. They lost so many games that to the point that if you watch that game, you just want to practice the art of watching losers. That's a great game to watch. Let's get a few more in, because I might go like 5-10 minutes over, but I want to get a few more in because it's going to be my last. I'm not going to teach them more defense after this. I'm going to next class. Go ahead.
A few more pages, questions.
Oh, yeah. Let's see if I can try it. Let's try it.
Questions?
Let's try it.
Okay. Let's see. How do you bring a person or group into awareness of their defensiveness? How do you start that conversation?
You don't bring somebody into that space first. You first go to that space. Because if you see them, you're probably part of the problem. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's the shit that fucked me up. If you around a whole bunch of people that's defensive and you trying to tolerate and work with them, you're probably an enabler. So first start with yourself, because you won't be able to see them to support anything. You won't be, because if you can't see the complexity of it, and it's a complex. What Shakina said was fucking fire. If you walk into Shakina's studio, it feels happy and fun. Colors are light, place is bright. She's smiling, music is happy. She ain't playing no gangster music. She's playing some move fast music, right? And people in there smiling, working out, sweating. Oh my God, high fiving in the end. And what she told you, there's an underground economy in here fucking shit up that you can't see unless you get a little bit closer or have more skin in the game. What I'm saying to you guys is that, but as she learns it, she'll be able to see it even in the way she writes. I'm talking about just simple communication. Like when Kaja just said, they owe us. You automatically position yourself to lose. You're already fucked over. Because what you're saying is, I have dependency on you. If I owe you money, let's say I bought $1 million from you, right? I'm in power now. Because if I don't pay you back, I just fucked you up. So whether you know it or not, hey, Kaja, I want to lower my payments. No. Well, that's all I can do. What you want to do? You take it or not? Well, I punish your credit. I get over that. Who's in power now? So you see what I'm going with this? So when you say you owe me, that ain't necessarily a good thing. So in the end, if you say, okay, like with my wife, okay, you got this opportunity. Now, what do you got to do to earn that opportunity? And as long as you not earn that opportunity, we don't have that dual conversation in this social justice world. Woman, you get this. What do you got to do? And then one of the things I even said, I said, a lot of CEO roles and CFO roles are sacrificial roles. You sacrifice your relationship to your family for these roles. That means you're going to have to discover how that's going to work for you, because if a woman becomes that kind of role and you have a 5-year-old, there's some negotiations and some structuring and design elements, and you're going to change your downtime so that time becomes your children's time. So life is different for you. Well, when you had a job, 8 hours over, I'm going to go hang with my girlfriends, take care of my kids, hang with my husband. Now it's like, if it's holiday, we don't celebrate Christmas. Let's say we celebrate Christmas. And the company says, hey, we need you here on Christmas. She don't get to say, nah. I'm a family person. You're a CFO now. You gonna go with this? So like all that kind of, like I had to have the come to Jesus dialogue like, hey, this shit is complex. This ain't no promotion and you just get a bigger paycheck. This is gonna be, you're no longer the same person again. You literally just, it's like if I sent you away in the military and you've been a civilian your whole life and you're about to fight a real rough war, you do understand when you come back, you'll never be the same person again. That's really what's about to happen. But as I took on, because I'm an offensive thinker, when she told me, my brain went to offense. And the best way to reward somebody who puts you on is how you perform. Not they put me on, and then let's say, okay, I get a job from DEI, and they put me on. Do I perform at the same level if the underwriting story is they owe me this shit? How do you know you do? How do you measure that?
Well, there's measurements in place for that. It's not to say you get a spot there because of being an underrepresented group. It's saying the role is to make sure there's not a blocker from you having the space, but you still have to perform when you get there or you leave,
okay,
or you get put out.
Which company are you talking about? Which company are you talking about?
I'm talking about any company that really has a
But which company are
DEI
you talking about specifically?
program. I'm talking about the one I know that I work at.
Okay.
Yeah.
At your company, how black are the black people?
What you mean by that?
How much do y'all co-switch in that environment? How much do y'all co-switch in that environment?
Some do, some don't. Many do. Many don't. I don't.
If you talk about the company I know you talking about, that's the least blackest company in the fucking world. That company's so white, it makes me, look, I get light-skinned when I come out that motherfucking place. That place is super white. It is so white. Even the way everybody talks, you watch the Indian, the Asian, the Latino, they all act white. It's so white, eh? It is ridiculous. That's my Spanish version of white, Josh. Right? And so what I'm saying is that at what expense are we going to those environments? And what cost and damage are we doing to those individuals? Because the premise of those environments don't even know how to show up to us, because the DEI conversation is get you in, not redesign human design. What is a black human design? What is a necessary, healthy black? Not the hood. Because once we say human design, everybody goes to 73rd East 14 or south side of Chicago or motherfucking Baltimore. That's not what I'm suggesting, right? Human design is, what is the environment that allows African Americans to thrive based upon their historical context of existing in society? What type of training do they need to be subsidized based upon society and their ability to perform in our company, and to be able to grow in this company and still maintain a healthy participation within themselves and the company? Ain't nobody talking about no shit like that. DI is like, I'm getting the door open. Ain't nobody want to go to that fucking door. That shit is, and the black people go there like, I've been to the black people events at your space. I really hang out with the white people. It's just funner. That shit is ass kicking to the highest of kiss activity. Go ahead.
Also is you take away the stress. A lot of times if you take away stress from those environments of, oh shit, I got to perform or else I'm going to get fired, versus they owe me, so I'm going to be here, can sometimes make somebody feel comfortable in those roles. You need that stress to be like, oh shit, I gotta perform, I gotta make sure it happens, I gotta do my best work, I gotta get better, I gotta grow, I gotta make sure I perform, I hit home runs. And the stress of that allows you to really become more of who you are, who you thought you can be. I think those roles can sometimes make people entitled and have a sense of entitlement.
Oh, I heard
they owe me.
that. My wife, before she was serious about her job, she said, they ain't gonna fire me, I'm the only black woman in here. DEI got me protected. So when I say work the hardest, when that tension's on your shoulders, game is different. And you don't know who the best, to interpret the best without tension. I don't know how to do that. Tension is what makes us the best. Is there anything other questions on that?
There was a question.
By the way, the tunnel was clogged, so that's why a lot of people couldn't make it to class earlier, because they couldn't get to the damn tunnel. Yeah, it was an accident. A weak ass accident, by the way. He got bumped. Pause.
This question it's a two-parter. First question is, how do you handle defensive situations when you aren't in a leadership role? Because I find myself not wanting to offer feedback or make a suggestion because of the amount of defense in the room. And then the second part of that is then also, how do you get yourself into offensive rooms when your business has to work with defensive clients and or vendors?
Well, first of all, everything about that question is defensive, and the person who's asked the question in this defensive role, so that all their paths of solution are defensive based. Let me answer the question. I'm going to put out a podcast about the art of questioning. Question game is the superpower game. How do you learn how to ask questions as opposed to make statements, right? And how does your team become offensive in a defensive world, actually creating a solution-based product that allows you to charge a different price and positions yourself in a higher value offer to your customers? All my customers are defensive. And guess what? My offensive gameplay allows me to charge them enormously amount of money because of value I offer to the company. A lot of times I'm untying the knots in the organization because the knot was tied behind defensive choices. And then when I come up with these offensive solutions, they're literally going, wow, how do you know these things? Because I'm operating from a different frequency of offense. When you operate from a different frequency of offense, okay, remember I told you last week that if you are operating in the frequency of defense, positive things become defensively weaponized, right? So integrity becomes bad, honesty becomes bad, helping others become bad, right? And list goes on. So the company will be using these words all the time. We believe in this, we believe in that. There's another example I gave in this book where the manager goes around echoing to the employees that we believe in excellence. We are an organization, watch this is defensive. We believe in excellence, knowing there's nothing excellent about the designs of the organization. meaning that all he gets to do is use the argument of excellence to prep defensive arguments, and he uses it in certain conversations to reposition himself in the room, but ultimately he creates these ideas with no pathway because he doesn't even own the idea of excellence. Is that some cold shit? Like we do pre-defensive things to position ourselves that sound positive, so when some shit show up, we are in the best offensive position in a defensive world. But we're just as defensive. So at the end of the day, it's like, so part of that is, the first thing is that the person who asked that question, going back to the brother and sister who asked the question, the first thing is work on yourself in this defensive space. And I'll try to lob some material into the paid group so we can, hopefully that person's paid, but I'll lob some material to kind of like some things you can work on. But the Conscious Leadership book is an offensive strategy book. Court is teaching you guys offense. The to me, by me, as me, you know that's all offensive. If you're reading that book and you're sitting in class and then that allows you to ask richer questions, you're starting the process of mining offensive strategy. And then once you have the offensive strategy, this is why I can't give him a black and white answer. Because once he gains his offensive hearing, seeing, because you gotta learn to see it. When you don't see it, it's a frustration within your body. Like literally, when somebody argues with you, okay, watch this. You're in a meeting, and somebody goes, they go, hey, Shabisha, I think scientifically we should approach this differently. And you say, what data do you have for that? You know what you just did? That sounds logical, right? It's not. You know goddamn well they can't find you no data that fast. Right? That's nothing but a suggestion to spark an idea in a conversation that you can go back and forth on to build a test module for a hypothesis. Then you'll say, tell you what, once you run some data, or have your team run some data, get that back to me. Well, by the time we run the data, you've already moved on to the point that this conversation is no interest. That's all defensive. I literally came up with a whole defensive. So if you don't know how to see how something as innocent as, can you provide the data? Right? Or Google that. Let me look this. What'd you say? Or defensive. You know, I read your document the other day, and you misspelled a couple of words, but it's okay. Why the fuck you just say that? It's so many subtleties that when you're defensive culture, there's so many trashy little things we do all the time. So for him to see the person, see that as you go through conscious leadership, as you learn this is a defensive thing, you don't forget the press secretary. Right? Radical responsibility. If you really start practicing radical responsibility, you will start positioning yourself to start to leak small acts and solutions. So, for example, problems happen in your office. This is what used to happen in Fight to Media. Danielle, Mashama, me, I think we were the main leaders of it, but some other members of the team. Something would happen in the office, right? A client would do something that was crazy, and we would start gossiping. See, this is why it's hard to help these motherfuckers. They don't understand. This is the right way. We know the right way. They stupid. They should be doing what we do. They're not stupid. We're just as stupid. And I was pushing defensive disease in my company. So what we end up start saying is, now this is what happens. And I learned this with Shakina too. Something happens, and we have emotional surge. And it takes off. We're like, wait, they did what? Can we look into why they did it? Why did they do it? Why do you think they did it? Let's look at some possible. Well, let's first assess it. Let's think about the right questions to ask them. How do we position ourselves to discover it? I'm gonna give them a call tomorrow. Let's download it, and let's see what the challenges are that we missed, so we can support them. You see the difference? That's offensive. Not defensive is we're gossiping, assuming, making assumptions real, positioning ourselves and becoming dumber. Offense is we're questioning, we're getting insights, and we're saying, what did we miss? What can we learn from this? And what can we improve? And what opportunities can we gain from this?
Can I throw one quick one in? Is when you say, hey, let's do A, because data and everything suggests 99% says do A. And they say, well, I know somebody who does B. Well, you just said 99% do A, and you're looking for the one person that as your argument.
Now, watch this. I'm going to show you. I'm going to turn that to offense. 99% does A, we should make this decision. Okay, which might be true. And I might be wrong about this. I know some people who have done B. Well, and then we engage in a conversation now. There is no, I'm done. I'm done. I got the biggest point. Or I got the biggest idea. I trump you. That's defensive. It's, how in the fuck do you get to the point that you got a lizard as your marketing material for your company if you're defensive? It's impossible. Somebody has to literally say, while we're going over all this complex scientific marketing data, what if we just use a lizard? Huh? Lizard? You get me? Huh? And management has to say, let's play with that for a second. That's the difference. But if the management goes, look, we got this data. Did you say fucking lizard? If you don't get your ass up out of here, anyway, the rest of y'all, John, get the fuck up out of here. Anyway, you see what just happened? We lost an opportunity because he said something that was outside of our circle of thought, as opposed to, if you work here and you understand the community culture and you're committed to the system, I just want to hear your opinion. Otherwise, that introvert in the room, you can't even reach them because you're too damn aggressive and like, this is the way it should be, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I want to say. And an introvert in your group who has all the fucking creativity is never heard. She goes to work for Adobe one day, becomes a superstar, and you're like, why the fuck were you a superstar here? It wasn't her and you, it was a culture you created that didn't allow her to have a space. So how do you allow the weakest voice to have just as much value at this table as a person and be able to create that space? Watch another way of defensive. Back-to-back meetings, you have a board meeting, and your board meeting is presentation. Guess what? That's fully defensive because we don't get a chance to talk about none of this shit. We got to keep moving. Harsh lines around meetings is defensive. That means I'm not going to be able to say, is this even a good idea? That's another hour. Do we have that hour? No, we don't have time for that. We got to make two decisions, get to a point, and move forward. You're in a defensive rhythm. You guys sort of see what this is like. Once you start to move in, you say, I want to be innovative. Okay, black people, you're not going to beat white people in business doing the same thing they do. You're going to have to use some innovation. Now, you've seen the innovation you can do in hip-hop music. You've seen the innovation you can do in culture. But all of a sudden in business, you just want to copy and paste massa. Have you lost your damn mind? At some point, you are an innovation beast, but you can't unleash that weapon until you know how to design an environment that gives room for innovation. Everybody, if I was running my company right now, everybody in this room is valuable to me. I don't give a fuck about your background. You be like, no, I don't have the same college background. I know, but the question you will ask will make this smart motherfucker come up with new solutions. Everybody's valuable in this room. But if I only let the smart motherfucker keep talking, it's an echo chamber, and we all going, where the fuck are we going? We all lost. You make some GPS for this shit? And then if we all lost, guess what? Your effort has just decreased because you're disconnected from where we're going. If Google says, hey, we'll work on a world where Russia will be free, black people are like, yeah, give me my paycheck. I don't give a fuck about this. Right? That's what happens when the people can't pour into. Because you could say in your mind when we first started, we're going to Africa, people. But by the time we actually get together, we might fucking end up in Jamaica. And we're killing it. We're killing the game. Because as different members of the team join, they start saying, no, but you're missing Jamaica. You're missing Panama. You're missing Brazil. You got the game fucked up. I'm like, what are you talking about? Man, I'm about to fuck with my Nigerian cousins. And then one day, just because I'm listening, I go test it. And I tap that whale and oil's flying all over the place. I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea. But you can't get to innovation. You can't become an innovation-rich company in a defensive world. It shuts all that shit down. So diversity can't work in defensive cultures. If you come in here with a defensive tone and a company just to defensive behavior, it shuts down diversity. If I say, what y'all doing? Or if I say, hey, honey, how you doing? And you say, how you doing, ma'am? And somebody says, how you doing, they? That's diversity. But guess what? If they is the only thing we can say, is that diversity? Is that really diversity? Is it? Yeah. All right, y'all. I can't stand in such a, I will post material for you guys to read. You guys are welcome to ask me more questions. Even online, I will answer the questions because we're going to be on a 2-week break. We won't be back to April 2nd, I think it is, right? So between here and April 2nd, feel free to lob up defensive questions because this goes way further. And I'm going to post some material. I will encourage you, I think Danielle probably will jump on this as soon as I say this, to read Chris's Rigorous, I'll provide his name in a group. I'll encourage you to buy the book. Struggle reading it because it's got more grammatical errors in a little bit. But this $200 to $90 book printed, you can get the digital copy for only $9. And struggle with the grammatical errors because it is so fucking fire. And you'll realize, don't attempt to remove, if you have not developed offensive thinking, you are probably defensive. And if you see all these defensive people that you think I'm different than them, you're just as defensive. You're just a different variation. There's different, like if you looked at defensiveness as like the X-Men, we may not all show up with the same display of power, but we all are impacting this problem different ways, but coming from the same force, right? So once you're in that defensive force, you can be nice and kind and religious and Christian and be defensive as shit. There's people right now, I can't listen to class because none of cusses. What world you live in? What world the fuck do you live in? It's because what you're doing is there's something else going inside of you and you're practicing all this, I don't defense. I believe in boundaries because business is about saying no. But offensive no is very different than defensive no's. There's so many skeletons and ghosts in your head that got you so scared that don't exist. Have you guys, we're gonna talk black people. Fuck the white people, I don't give a shit what they think. Y'all been around black people, they go, so at my job, white people. And you in your own fucking house? Do you understand how crazy that shit looks to me? At my job, white people, they be, everything that's coming out your mouth from the beginning of that sentence to your end of your soliloquy is defensive. And then when it comes time to reverse that thinking to a solution, it can't. It's it's poisoned by so much defensive thinking, it can't convert to offensive solutions. Y'all see how cold this shit is? The way you talk every day got your flight fucked up because it makes you feel good because you told everybody, think about this, if I cussed everybody in this room out and made y'all all leave me the fuck alone, but my numbers didn't get no different and I didn't increase my love in my family and my life didn't get no better, all I did is I got this win of being defensive, but my life didn't change. Most activists got regular fucking jobs. Some of them got minimum wage jobs. Pro-black as a motherfucker at McDonald's. Right? I'm keeping this shit 100. And they're defensive. Yeah, you flipping these motherfucking fries and shit. The white man got me over here. Really, dog? Do I have to really hear this conversation? Can I just get my Coke Zero and get the fuck up out of here? Right? So I'm keeping this shit 100. Like, this defensive thinking will cause you to betray your own fucking desires. Everything you want, you're not getting, and you feel so right, but your bank account looks so wrong. Fuck with me now. All right, y'all. As they say in Brazil, you understand me? Because you're going to smile. You understand me? Have a good weekend. Yeah.